And thanks for joining us, everybody. We're live worldwide on the Jim Masters Show Live. Hope you're having a great day. It is a pleasure to have you here, as always. We hope your day is going well. We hope you had a really good, solid day. Maybe you were very creative. Maybe you were perhaps very productive. We've got an extraordinary show that is going to inspire you and empower you. And as you know, this show, the Jim Masters Show Live, we're in week number 6, which is amazing. And as many of you know, I do this professionally as a television and radio host, a journalist, and a voiceover narrator, a stage MC, writer, producer, actor. So we created this about 6 weeks ago here on YouTube at Jim Masters TV and also on Facebook at Jim Masters TV, simulcasting on both worldwide, as a show for entertainment, for lifestyle, talk show series, but also to put a smile on your face, to lift you, to inspire you, to empower you. And a lot of the work that I do in broadcast media is about that. It's about trying to find ways to get through life, to inspire people. As many of you know, the question that I always ask in life, before it's the what and the who and the when and the how, is the why. I always like to know the why about things, because when I feel it, when I understand the why, and I really feel whatever it is we're talking about, or we're going to do, or we're going to remember and reflect on, it just gives me a deeper understanding and a deeper essence of whatever that thing is, or that conversation is going to be, or whatever that life moment is. So for me, the why is the question in my life that always comes first. Why this? Why that? And when I feel the why, then we move on to the how and the when and the who and the what. And when you have an opportunity to do a show like this, which is really based, as I mention all the time, on spreading light, levity, we do have a lot of fun here on the show too, and love, it's an opportunity to really engage with so many amazing people from around the world. We have people who have been watching this show from all across the United States, Canada. We've had people from Asia and Europe and Australia, and it's just absolutely amazing the amount of feedback. And as you know, this is a very interactive show as well. So we like to have interaction with the viewers, and I'm very responsive, and I'm a very communal person, as you know. So I like to feed off the energy of other people and then give that energy back tenfold. So we're here about inspiring, having a lot of fun. We have great guests all the time here on the show, and amazing segments on the show as well. Even when we don't have guests, we do a lot of fun things, and from music to food segments, we take you on location. This week we went to the Netherlands, we went to California, we went to Red Rocks in Colorado together through some segments. And on this show today, I have two very, very special guests who are going to be joining me in just a moment. Dr. Bernie Siegel and his grandson, Charlie Siegel. They have penned an extraordinary book together, which just continues to solidify that bond between grandfather and grandson. It's an inspirational and moving and very empowering book. And Dr. Bernie Siegel is, of course, known for great inspiration and in healing words, and as well empowerment in everything that he does, even through sharing his own life experiences, from triumphs to tragedies, from happy times to sad times. He's a very open person, and Charlie is as well. And they've been expressing this through their body of work. Charlie is also a fine art nature photographer as well. And he works at a beautiful, beautiful shop with his mother in northern Connecticut, wisdom by the ages, his mother Jane. And it's just a beautiful place of spirit when you go in and you have an opportunity to experience it. I encourage you to do that. We're going to talk more about all of this in just a moment. But my connection with Dr. Siegel initially was through an interview that I was tasked with doing on public television. They brought Dr. Siegel in, and it was a special, and we had an opportunity to do a tremendous interview live on air in the television studio. And they had folks from the community that were answering phones and taking public television support pledges. And I have to tell you, the phones were ringing off the hook. Everybody couldn't get enough of Dr. Siegel and his wit, his wisdom, his understanding of the human condition and of life in general. So it was really an engaging conversation, one that I've always referenced many, many times in my career and in my life. So when I spoke to Bernie and Charlie just a couple of weeks ago, when we were formatting our guests for the upcoming shows, he said, "You just tell me where and when, and we will make this happen." So we put it all together. And we're so honored to have them here on the show. They're going to be coming up in just a moment. But as you know, we like to start the show with some light and levity. As always, we toast to everybody that's watching. This is to you and you and you and you and you from wherever you are around the world. And again, we're all about putting a smile on your face. So, and Dr. Bernie, he's going to love this when he sees it. George Burns, as you remember, we did a Nostalgic Week episode a couple of weeks ago, and I displayed the authentic George Burns doll, collector's doll, that came out on his 100th birthday that my aunt had, and it got passed down to me. And there he is with his cigar and his glasses, and he's there to put a smile on your face. Good old George Burns. He's sort of like, again, my Ed McMahon, my sidekick. And of course, we have Jimmy Jeannie here. She's still in the bottle. She hasn't come out yet. I'm hoping that she'll come out. Again, the hair salons have been closed for a while, so she didn't want to come out until the salons are open. And as we always say, and I want to say this to you as well before the show, as much as we say it at the end of the show. Usually I end the show with this, but we always say to relax, to breathe, to count your blessings, to love one another. I mean, the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day here along the coast, but think about the things in life, the blessings in your life, the people and the blessings that exist now, not just the things that you hope for and the things that you dream about and wish for and work towards, but those blessings that you have now. Because we've been going through some extraordinary times, you must say, in the last couple of months globally. So think about breathing from your diaphragm as opposed to hyperventilating. Take deep breaths. If you're near water, go to the water. If you're in a forest area, walk through the forest. Whatever it takes to relax, to breathe, count the blessings, and celebrate the little things in life. Work towards those big things that you want, but celebrate those little things in life that really matter, because those little things are what lead up to some of those bigger things that you accomplish and that bring you great joy in your life as well. So we always say, and again, I picked this up when we were on a family vacation in Newport, Rhode Island, just saw it in the shop. And it's got a little beach scene there, like Newport, Rhode Island, I think probably in the 1920s or 30s. We usually show this at the end, but this is so apropos and perfect for this particular episode. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the things that are coming up here on the show as well. We've got some extraordinary people that are going to be coming on the show next week as well. We're here tomorrow, Saturday, live, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We do this show every single night. I can't believe I signed up for that. No, we're here every single night, 7 p.m. Eastern, and every show is different and every show is unique here on the Jim Masters Show. So we've got some amazing people that are coming up next week, and I'm going to give you a little teaser. Sissy from Family Affair on CBS, the legendary TV series Family Affair. You remember that one with Buffy and Jody and Sissy? That is a classic television series, sitcom. She's going to be here on our show next Friday, a week from today. Kathy Garver. A couple of my friends in the industry mentioned her to me, and I was very familiar with her work. She's a speaker. She's an author. She talks about what it was like being a child star and beyond. She's an amazing person. She's going to be here next Friday. She's a brilliant actress. And again, I'll show you a photo of her as we get ready to kick things off here. There's sort of like a then and now photo, which is really, really cool. And again, some of my television colleagues had mentioned that she would be available, and I really appreciate that. Again, Sissy from Family Affair with Brian Keith, Sebastian Cabot, Johnny Whitaker, Anissa Jones, and of course, Kathy Garver, Sissy. There she is when she played Sissy on that TV series Family Affair for many years on CBS. And there she is today. She's all excited. She's going to be here as well. Some other amazing guests that are going to be joining us during the course of the program. Legendary news anchor and journalist Rita Cosby is going to be with us as well. She's a tremendous author and speaker, and you always hear her on the radio, and she's been a veteran of television news for a long time. We also have award-winning television and movie actress Lane Bradbury. She's going to be joining us in just a couple of weeks as well. Another dear friend, Lionel Ketching, is going to be joining us in just a couple of weeks. He is the creator of the Happiness Club. And again, I had an opportunity to interview him when he came into the studio. He was actually in the studio the same night Dr. Bernie Siegel was. And that's when we all met initially at the public television studio. And that was absolutely amazing. Coming up on Monday, Clara Francesca. She's an extraordinary movie and stage and television actress. She's very excited to be here. She's going to be joining us on Monday night. Saxophonist from actually Hartford, Connecticut originally, but he just came back from Spain where he was studying through Berklee School of Music as well. He's going to be with us coming up in just a couple of weeks as well. We had the phenomenal conversation at home in California with Buffy Ford Stewart last night. If you missed that, feel free to go back in the archives. So Clara is going to be with us on Monday, which is terrific. There she is. The award-winning guitarist John LaBarbera, he's going to be with us on Tuesday of next week. And it's going to be a wonderful evening of music and inspiration. This guy can pick up any kind of guitar there is that you can think of. And even the bouzouki from Greece, he's extraordinary. He's very highly accomplished, and he's a great friend. He's going to be with us on Tuesday of next week. We're very, very much looking forward to that. And then, of course, we've got Tiffany Lauren. She's going to be with us as well. Actually, John is going to be with us on Wednesday, and Tiffany is going to be with us on Tuesday. So John LaBarbera is with us Wednesday. Tiffany Lauren, who's a brilliant violinist. She's in Chicago. She is extraordinary. She's a dear friend as well, and we all have similar mutual friends in music and in movies and television. And Tiffany is a real delight, and she, again, is based in Chicago. She's going to be joining us on Tuesday. We're really looking forward to it. She's all excited, and she's been posting links and sharing links, which we really appreciate. And Thursday, this wonderful individual, another inspired individual. This is Elise Lobianco. She is the wife of award-winning veteran television and movie legend Tony Lobianco. And if you recall, we had Tony Lobianco on the show on Memorial Day for a very special, moving episode and tribute episode on Memorial Day. This is his lovely wife, Elise, and she does a lot of meditative study and empowerment and inspiration. And she's going to be with us next Thursday, another wonderful show that's coming up. And as I mentioned, coming up on Friday, the unbelievable, she's so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to have her. We're talking about Kathy Garver, who played Sissy on Family Affairs. She's going to be with us as well. So as I mentioned, we had an opportunity to meet Dr. Siegel when he was in the studio at public television a few years back, and the phones rang off the hook. I think the system went down because the phones are ringing off the hook. His wit, his wisdom, his understanding of the human condition is extraordinary. And anytime he speaks, You remember the commercials years ago? Some of you remember when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Well, he's sort of like the E.F. Hutton because when he speaks, the world stops. Everybody listens because his perspective and his wisdom is so extraordinary. So it was a delight and a blessing to originally meet him at the PBS studio. It was actually Connecticut Public Television in Hartford. And if you know any of his work, I'll show you some of the work. I encourage you to go to his websites. I encourage you to immerse yourself in the body of work that Dr. Siegel has presented for all of us. Because if you're having a bad time right now getting through everything we've been dealing with in our lives, as you know, my show here is all about light, levity, and love. I do this work professionally on television and radio. We created this show just a few weeks ago, 6 weeks ago now, here online on YouTube and Facebook, and it's been a blessing and a joy. If you want light, levity, and love, definitely Dr. Siegel and Charlie as well, because Charlie is extraordinary. He is a light himself, a ray of sunshine himself, because he's fully understands the human condition and empathy and really what it's all about in terms of how you treat others. So if you need to be lifted, which is what we like to do here on the show, follow their work. And Charlie is also a brilliant nature photographer as well. Gorgeous work. You got to go to his websites. We'll give you the website addresses as well. But first, just want to welcome the audience here. Then we will welcome our very special guests here. Oh, Miss Willie from the Netherlands. Yes, here you are, and you're awake. We say that because she just joined us a couple of nights ago, and she lives in Holland. And right now it's like 1 a.m. in Holland. So what Willie has been doing, so she doesn't miss an episode of the Jim Masters Show live, is taking naps in the day so she can wake up now to join us on the show. So we say hello to you in the Netherlands. We have an international audience here. We appreciate that, all the love and support for this show. That's what life's all about, right? Scott Davis is here. Hello to you. And let's see, more great guests and viewers. Avriel, hi, Jim from Hampshire, United Kingdom. It's so wonderful to have you here, Avriel. We appreciate that. Willie says hello as well again. Christopher Joseph is in Sylvania, Ohio. And Ernestine Webb, listening and watching the show from North Carolina. We appreciate that. Priscilla Lynn, who's originally from Milford, Connecticut, now making her home in the beautiful U.S. Virgin Islands. Good evening to you as well. And also Marilyn, hi from Wichita, Kansas. Enjoy your pleasant memories of our city. Thank you very much. Scott is listening and watching from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And Kayanne, hi from Jamestown, Ohio. That's terrific. Great to have you here as well. And more great folks here. Renee Katz, hi, Jim. Hi, Renee. Good to see you as well. Dwight Turner, the wonderful television and film actor and stage actor who was just a guest earlier in the week. You're an excellent interviewer, Jim. Thank you very much, Dwight. That was a wonderful episode to have you on. And so many people enjoyed it. And they go back in the archives and watch that. He's watching on YouTube right now. Ernestine says, hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a fine day. We've got such a wonderful audience of like-minded people who really care about others on this show. And I love that. Karen Levitt, who's a life coach in New Hampshire, joining us. Good to see you, Karen, as well. Renee Jones, Uscombe, hi all. It's finally Friday. Yes, it is. And so wonderful to have you here. Karen says, words, thoughts are powerful indeed. Yes, they are. Alice says, hi from California. And Christine says, lovely ladies, tonight's show as well. That's fantastic. And again, we've got lots more comments coming in. But let me tell you about our guests if you're not familiar with them. They're extraordinary people. And I'm so honored. As I mentioned, when I connected with Dr. Siegel a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I'd love to invite you to be on this show. He immediately said, Jim, you just tell me where and when, and we'll set it all up. And then Charlie came on as well, his grandson. And we're so excited to have them here. Just want to show you a couple of things first. They have penned a spectacular book, When You Realize How Perfect Everything Is. A conversation about life between grandfather and grandson. This is a definite book to have in your library that you're going to want to refer to multiple times again and again. Several different chapters that are absolutely extraordinary. It's a wonderful bond between grandfather and grandson, but also it's a wonderful reference that all of us can pay heed to throughout our lives. And Also, here's a book that many of you may be aware of that Dr. Siegel penned, which is another brilliant one, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, Lessons Learned About Self-Healing from a Surgeon's Experience with Exceptional Patients. That is a bestseller, and that's an extraordinary book to have in your library. So is Love, Animals, and Miracles. And then this other book, too, that's very recent, penned by Dr. Siegel, No Endings, Only Beginnings. A doctor's notes on living, loving, and learning who you are. We're very excited to have both Dr. Bernie Siegel and his phenomenal grandson, Charlie, with us today. Let me just tell you that New York Times bestselling author says, at a time when our world is at a tipping point, this legacy of love is a powerful statement to the essential humanity that passes from generation to generation. I bow to the deep kinship that nourished these poems, flowers of two souls, watered from the same divine source. When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. That's anonymous. You can go on a journey of wonder and grace with New York Times bestselling author Bernie Siegel, MD, and his grandson, Charlie Siegel. Open your heart as grandfather and grandson weave a conversation of love across the generations, sharing what it means to see beyond the challenges of life to the beauty in life's lessons. Bernie and Charlie remind us that we are all knocked down sometimes by life's difficulties, how true that is. But it is the rising back up that counts. And I've been talking about that light, having the opportunity to do that, especially with what we've been dealing with recently, pandemics, economic, civil unrest, that hopefully we will rise from the ashes, not going back to a new normal, but attaining better. And that's what they dared to experience, life to its fullest. The imperfections of life are an opportunity, actually, for us to grow. So many of us get stuck in trying to search for perfectionism, and that can be a very claustrophobic place to be. I've experienced it. I think all of us do from time to time. With this incredible book, you join grandfather and grandson together as they bring you the wisdom of the ages to help men and women of all ages. Listen deeply to the profound insights contained within their poetic words. Be encouraged as their deep faith, inspired writings, and messages of hope share their belief that the imperfections of life are truly what is perfect about it. I want to say that again because that's so important, because we think the things that we think are perfect are what make life fantastic. It's the imperfections of life that are truly what is perfect about it. Dr. Bernie Siegel is a retired surgeon, leading teacher of the Mind-Body Connection, New York Times bestselling author, and the author of 19 books. And Charlie Siegel is an extraordinary fine art nature photographer, author of 2 books, and spiritual teacher, and eternal student. And I love that phrase, eternal student, because we really are. Life is a continual lesson that we all learn. Let me welcome them. They are waiting in the wings in our beautifully furnished green room. Actually, no, they are on location at their home studios as we are here doing the show at our home studio. I welcome first Dr. Bernie Siegel. It's good to see you, Doctor, and your grandson, Charlie. Good to see you, handsome-looking gentleman. Welcome to the show.
I think we got a sound connection on your end there, Grandpa Bernie. We've had that sometimes before. If you disconnect and reconnect, we can fix that up.
So if he disconnects and reconnects, he'll get the sound?
Yeah, then it works. We've had that a couple times before.
Don't you love technology? So for those of you who want to know about the imperfections of life, he's doing this just to show you how to deal with the imperfections of life. This is a demonstration. I think we're getting there a little bit.
Yeah, if you click the leave studio button and then you can come back on, we should be okay.
So he has to click leave studio.
Yeah. Yep. And then he'll come. We've had it on a couple other shows.
It's funny how that works, right? Well, he'll get that all set up. And Charlie, it's so great to have you here. And I've been really reviewing, because I've known your grandfather for years, as I mentioned in that introduction, through interviewing him on public television. But you're quite blessed as well. I mean, your body of work is extraordinary. You're 25, right?
26. Yeah.
26 now.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. So.
Thanks.
So in that time, I mean, you're sort of like an old soul in many ways, because the way that you look at life and the way that you experience things through the wisdom of your grandfather, your mother too, who's also a very inspirational person, and others in your family. You've been able to share this wisdom and this inspiration with so many others through your work and your creativity as well, right, Charlie?
Yeah, I enjoy getting to, like you were talking about, uplifting others is the key. My mom started Wisdom of the Ages, as you had mentioned. She started it when I was 3, and she teaches meditation classes and spiritual events. And so I grew up as that's part of everyday life, is training like that, and then getting to sit in her classes to help teach them now. Being a part of all of that, my writing and my photography have become like my own facet of a spiritual practice that I want to get to give to others to help uplift us all.
Absolutely. And you, I think maybe the audio might be up at Dr. Siegel's connection.
We might be good now.
Got it? Perfect. You also studied martial arts too, right, Charlie?
I do. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd actually been doing martial arts since I was 4 years old, and I did one style for 19 years, and training and teaching in that. And a few years ago, I transferred like fully over into Daitryu Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, where I train with Roy Goldberg Sensei and travel with him sometimes, and I lead a study group in Simsbury, Connecticut. So it's a very traditional Japanese style that really takes you inside, and you're working on yourself. And you can kind of compare some pieces of it to Tai Chi, but it's more hands-on jiu-jitsu kind of thing. And that's I talk about that being an important part of who I am. That where I'm working with more like creative or artistic ends of things, the martial arts keeps you connected and grounded with yourself, and connected with others too. It helps everybody.
Absolutely. And Dr. Siegel, we welcome you to the show. How are you today?
I was doing well until I tried to get on the show. My computer, was being upgraded, and I had no control over it. And I think, I talk to God a lot, and I think it's like weather, if you know what I mean. I feel we all participate in it and make our own weather, but I keep presenting you with lessons over and over again. Yes. You want to be on the show, you want to talk, you want to share, and you have a blank. And so it taught me a lot. Again, I relearned my own lessons. So being calm, being patient, waiting, and so forth. Because, one of the things that I always love saying, you showed the cover of when you realize how perfect everything is.
Yeah,
and I keep learning from Charlie, because I said to him, Charlie, it's 2 of us wrote, contributed to the book. Why aren't there 2 birds on the cover? And I love his answer. He said, that has to do with the person reading the book, their course, their way, their direction. So I find that symbol of the one bird on the cover to be very meaningful. Each of us is that creature.
Absolutely.
Our way. Yeah.
And that bird, is that a hawk that is, a photo that you took, Charlie?
Yep, I took that photograph right on the summit of Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire. It was actually at sunset, and the hawk was just off the edge of the mountain. Like if I'm standing on the very top, he was just off the edge, and would just, like somebody pushed pause on him, he was still on this gust of wind, and then would drop off and come right back up. So that kind of view of the way he's looking over the hills and that light coming in, that I wanted to represent the reader that way, that as you're reading the book and going through all the lessons we share in it, that it's like finding your own life and your own perspective. Yeah.
That's a beautiful area, Mount Monadnock.
Let me add one more thing.
That's a beautiful area.
About Charlie, because I was looking for help with the other book that you mentioned, No Endings, Only Beginnings. Charlie is such a wonderful spiritual creature, which I keep saying. I have no idea how he got where he is at his age. Took me twice as many years to get to the same place. But at the beginning of the book is really his home. And when you realize how perfect everything is, sort of came out of the fact that I called him looking for help with the other book. And then we began to talk and share our poetry. And I keep saying, he's a photographer, I'm a portrait painter. Yeah, I think our genes are very much lined up and why we connect with each other. But if I may take a minute to read what he wrote at the beginning of my book. Where is God in all of this? You ask yourself, head in your hand, water washing over your body from a shower or the rain or your tears. Where is God in all of this? The question echoes across the whole of the gymnasium as your peers laugh and the teacher says, where is God in all of this? It is a question we all ask at some point in our lives. Turn the question inward and let it reverberate through your heart, your mind, your soul, every fiber of your being. Where is God in all of this? It's in your heart, it's in breath, it's in every action you take and every life you touch. If you accept His presence here, if you act as an agent of miracles today, where is God in all of this? God is with me, and I am with God. Repeat it, feel it, live it. And I think if we all had that posted all over our houses and offices and cars and everywhere, we'd have a different world. I'm complaining about the computer. Where's God in all of this? I'm learning a lesson. We don't know what the future will bring. I call them spiritual flat tires because you miss your airplane because you got a flat on the way to the airport. But when you get to the airport, you found out the plane crashed that you were supposed to be on. Then what do? You go and post the tire over your fireplace. You never be thankful. And I think this is why there's so much wisdom in him that the book sort of happened. Because it's, here's my story, here's my poetry, here's my inside.
Exactly.
It's a marvelous resource.
So,
It's cool.
Charlie, I was going to say, what was that process like writing together? Because you wrote your individual things and then as well as collaboratively put this all together. What was that process like writing this book with your grandfather?
It's a really special thing to get to share. It's really interesting. Like he was saying, he reached out to me while he was working on No Endings, Only Beginnings, and he asked me for anything I wrote about God that I wanted to send him. And for me, writing about like the way that people can connect with God in a spiritual way, in a meditative kind of way, is one of my favorite topics to write on. So I had a whole document of stuff to send him. He sent me all of his poems back, and as I was reading his, he wrote a lot of his like through the 80s and 90s, and I started writing poetry in like 2013 or so to present. So we wrote them separately, but as I was reading his, there's so many of his poems that sync up with mine. It's like we were having this conversation without knowing we were. So there's like similar topics and even the same title on some of the poems we've written. So to make the book, it was like just printing them in the conversation that they're already in. So to get to share that with people, it flows through like different perspectives on it, but that similar kind of connecting with your true self inside and finding the life that you want to live. It unfolds through 7 different sections in our book. We start off with a destiny section, which looks more at like what you want to create for a destiny. We go to emotion, relationship, nature, our teacher, present moment, inner light, and hello God. And those are all topics that we had already written on. So to get to put this together, that's special to share in that.
It really is.
Did you write what I call to put together, you might say, a modern version of the Bible, all the things we've learned. And I really feel every time I listen to Charlie talking, that's sort of what we've done with these 2 books, right, is create Bible 2. And it's a way to practically apply all the lessons that are in the Bible. I'm not saying that we write something new. It's all the same, but what's new is our lifestyle and what's happening today. So that's why when I talk to God, I always say, look, your parables are a problem. Can you just tell me exactly what you mean? And one of them, I mean, that really came to me. I said to God, I'm trying to keep in touch and I can't understand. He said, Bernie, it's very simple. You're a satellite dish, a remote control, and a television screen. And I said, what are you telling me? He said, look, you have choices. What channels you tune into, what books you read.
Mm-hmm.
They're multiple. So I give you a brain, like a remote. You choose which one you're going to read, which one you're going to look at.
Right.
Then I give you your television screen, your body, to demonstrate what you're reading and learning. And I really think that, to me, is what life is about, and to try to help guide people to tune into the right channel so that, well, you know what's going on in the world today. That's not the right channel. That's not our being one family.
Right.
And as a surgeon, I'm always saying, because one of the paintings I did was of a black infant, a white infant sitting together, touching each other. And it's all the same color inside. It doesn't matter who's lying on the operating table. I don't have to say, give me the book on black people, on Chinese people, so I'll know where their appendix is. It's all in the same place. We're one.
Yeah.
And as God said, hey, if I made you all alike, you wouldn't know who the hell you're eating dinner with. So, to know each other. And this is one of my test questions. I have a picture of one of the three of us. I can't tell who it is. What's it a picture of?
Well, I would say a reflection of God, a reflection of humanity.
I say it's a picture of one of us.
Just one of, so plain and simple. Plain and simple.
Well, let me give you an answer. I had a friend, a black minister, visiting me once, and we went out of the house, and I didn't know he left two of his friends in the car. But when we approached, I said to his friend, I have a picture of one of us, and you can't tell who it is. They looked at me like, do you have a brain defect? You're white, he's black. But this wonderful minister, I knew him. He took his finger and pointed at his heart. And I said, yes, I knew he would tell you. We are the same. And when you talk to 5-year-olds at school, they say the same thing. They're all different, sitting there and say, I got a picture of one of you don't know who it is. They all go, my heart. That always touches me. Absolutely. Grow up with that kind of feeling of love, what a difference it would make.
That's very, very true when you really live heart-centric and soulfully, because that's what really, we all bleed red. And, I've oftentimes made the analogy of when you go into a restaurant and you see black pepper, always there next to each other, working in tandem, adding flavor to whatever the situation is. And the salt shaker and the pepper shaker look like two little people with the tops of their heads. And they're always there together, and everything is perfectly fine. And they complement each other. And I've been at restaurants where I pointed that out. I said, I've got to tell you something. It may sound a little strange, folks, but look in the corner at the black pepper and the white salt and how they are so how they complement the situation and how they're just there. Everything's fine. Everything is okay, and there's no problem. And people will look at that like, my God, all the years that I've seen these pepper and salt shakers on tables, and they look like little people, and I've never thought about it that way. But that's really the way, something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Because I'm similar to you guys where I tend to humanize inanimate objects. I give them human feelings. Chairs that people sat in, all kinds of things like that. And so when I saw the pepper and the salt shaker, I just said, that's the way things really should be if we take the time to listen and to care. One of the big things that I know for you, Dr. Siegel, and we mentioned this when we were having that conversation on public television, was for me, the first thing I always ask in life, not just, as a television radio host doing interviews, but in life, the question that I need the answer to first is why, not the what, the when, the how, and the where. I need the why because I like to feel everything. I like to feel it, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I like to feel the why. And when I understand and appreciate and absorb and feel the why, then I have a better connection to what, when, where, how. You're a big believer in the why as well, aren't you?
The biggest why is this. I've talked to God a lot. I'm on the board of directors as a consultant, so I go up there frequently. I said to God, why did you make a perfect world? Why do you have all these defects that I need to fix the surgery? I did a lot of children's surgery. To watch children born with all kinds of genetic defects. And that's part of why I had so much pain and ended up searching for help and writing poems. God said, Bernie, a perfect world, imagine here to live and learn. And that's the painful but true part, that if it were perfect, we would have no meaning.
Right.
You don't need your show. You don't need me. You don't need a doctor. You don't need everything's fine. And so it gives us meaning. And we're here to love each other and help each other. That's what gives us immortality. Love is immortal.
It really, really is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You were born in Brooklyn, New York. And how did growing up in that environment, Dr. Siegel, you had all cultures, so many different types of people. How did that enhance your understanding of people and the human condition and relationships?
Well, I hope you can hear me because I'm having a little trouble with the sound. But our street was like the United Nations. Every race, religion, everything else. And so everybody was family. Okay? I could play things out of the grocery store and go home with them as a kid.
Yeah.
When my parents showed up, they paid for it, I mean, everybody knew everybody else. And the morning that I ate bacon at Carmine's house and came home and told my grandfather what a wonderful breakfast I had, I thought he was going to faint because he was an Orthodox Jew. But
Right.
he'd go across the street and yell at Carmine's mother. You know what I mean? We were family. It's one more crazy thing everybody laughed about.
Right.
And we used to share religious holidays too that our parents didn't know it. I would stay home on Christian holidays and with Carmine, and Carmine would hang out with me on Jewish holidays. So we had more days off from school. But our parents never knew that. But again, so I grew up with that kind of attitude. And so my patients were the same. I was hugging them. They were hugging me because they knew I had pain too and I needed it. And it was a very different office. And yeah, I mean, memories come back. People would come in and talk to me and say, this doesn't feel like a doctor's office. I said, that's right. The color of the walls was a light purple. My desk was against the wall. So I would turn and face everybody. There were various pictures on the wall. And that was quite a compliment. This doesn't feel like a doctor's office. Yes. They knew I was caring for them first, and they could talk to me in that way too.
Right, exactly. So where do you think all of this understanding of the human condition and the passion for it that you have, obviously working in the medical field, you've seen all aspects of life. You've seen the good, you've seen the tragedy, you've seen all of it. You have such an extraordinary understanding of the human condition and such a lifelong desire to help people understand the things and the blessings that we do have around us, like with the book itself. We all have wonderful joys and blessings around us, but sometimes we're all trying to run after that, achieving that brass ring, and we don't take the time to savor and appreciate what we have in our life now. What has given you this inspiration?
How you brought up?
how you brought up.
I know how Charlie's been brought up. I've listened. And that's why he is who he is.
Right.
You know, and the studies show it. He said, my parents loved me. One study of Harvard students, those who said I wasn't loved by middle age, 98% had suffered a major illness. Those who said I was loved, 24%. So growing up with love leads you to be a very different person. We have, what should I say? You know, you then have self-worth, self-esteem. It doesn't mean that your parents liked everything you did, but they gave you what I call mottos to live by. And that's why I keep writing. I call a Bible too. I grew up with do what makes you happy. God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. And money was to help make it a better world. I'm not to buy a fancy car or a bigger house, but to help the world. And there are a lot of kids, including our president, who I'm sure didn't grow up with those messages. Accumulate money. We want to be proud of you. We don't want a violinist. We want you to be a lawyer. You know, all these things that I see in people now when they get a life-threatening illness, and then they get reborn. They change their life, and they don't die when they're supposed to. Many of them are cured of their disease. That I say that when these are people who went home to die. They had enough of everything. And then you see them years later, or the funniest ones are when I call up to ask, why wasn't I invited to the funeral? They answer home.
Right.
And the changes in their life are what led them to not die. Monday morning, heart attack, stroke, suicides, and illnesses. So every day
Absolutely. So, Charlie, obviously having, you know, in from your grandfather, mother also very similar.
You broke out a little bit on the sound. Can you ask that again?
So having the inspirations of the people that are around you, like your grandfather and your mother as well, and folks that are in your family that have inspired you, that is something that you've absorbed early on as a child, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. And on my mom's side, we have a lot of Native American friends. We go to powwows and get Native American made items and spend time with them. So that, you know, that culture that's so much more connected with the teachings of nature and you know, being true to yourself and to each other, that's a big part of me and my work also. And then with like the traditional martial arts study, I've then studied Buddhism and that end of it, and like I love the poetry of Rumi. So things kind of come all around, and I find that there's so many like truths that exist across all religions and spiritual practices that all come back to, you know, the same healing message and loving one another. So when I write, it's kind of an amalgamation of these many different lessons, and sometimes it's things that come from me, and sometimes it's things that I feel like they kind of come to me in a way. And one of my favorite authors, Richard Bach, starts off one of his books saying that he thought he had retired from writing novels and he was all set, and then he felt like this character came charging in through his wall and grabbed him and was like, tell my story, and he had to. And that happens to me when I'm working on a couple more novels now, where it's like these stories just kind of appear, but it's the lessons in them that I want to get out to help people, to inspire people. And then my photography is kind of on the other end of it. It's about connecting with stuff that's outside of us, that we're a part of, connecting with that nature that's beyond us. And that's kind of the point, that we're a little piece of something so much grander, to help us all remember that. It's, definitely being inspired by family, you know, watching my mom do what she wants to do and making the store, and having like little 3-year-old me to deal with all the time, and starting the store and doing what she wants to do. That watching that, then, you know, I did what I want to do. I didn't go to college. I went and studied photography twice in Iceland in the field, and like following your heart and following your passion. But I think having that as like on one hand and helping other people on the other hand, like you kind of got to have both to have the whole thing come together, and then things work out. If we can all have that helping each other kind of idea is a good thing.
Absolutely, because we're all in this together.
But I was saying, do what makes you happy. His parents gave him that freedom. They didn't say you have to go to school. He was homeschooled, but all these other things, we want to be proud of you. You have to go to school. You have to, go to become a lawyer, doctor,
Right.
whatever. And that's why he's the beautiful person he is.
Thanks.
I mean, he's the flower, and they didn't alter it and change it. And that's what people need to do. And again, somebody who was supposed to die put on her refrigerator, when you live in your heart, magic happens.
Right.
And she was HIV positive many years ago and became HIV negative and survived. And that was her message. You live in your heart, magic happens. And I say that to everybody. Let your heart make up your mind. It's so important. And why it's such a gift. As I say, Charlie's way ahead of his time. People, they have troubles and all kinds of things happen. And then, start working on their lives. But
Exactly.
he was given the freedom to be who he is. And that's just a gift. And why, as I say, working with him and how it happened, no coincidences. That's the other thing I'm thinking about. It was something I used to hear from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross all the time. Learn that there are no coincidences. Because our consciousness creates the future. Okay? That's a statement from Jung. The future is unconsciously prepared long in advance. And therefore, it can be guessed by clairvoyance. So people can read your future to you. I do it through drawings and dreams because we put the future in as well as past and present. And then you can tell people where they're going, who they're headed for, what job they ought to take, whether they ought to have an operation. It doesn't matter what the choice is. It's all there. We know the right answer. And why, as I say, every time I would be talking with Charlie, it's like, wow, how did this happen at that age? But again, I think it was, he had the freedom to be in touch with that. His parents weren't saying, you got to think. No,
Exactly.
feel.
So I
still do.
I asked Charlie what it was like to work on this book together with you. And what was it like for you, Dr. Siegel, to work on the book with Charlie?
Well, I'd say in one way, it's like being with yourself.
Yeah.
Because we find poems that had the same title, and it wasn't hard to put them into, topics because we both are writing them. And for me, they came out of my journal. I called them poetry. And people would say to me, that doesn't rhyme. I said, that's not the issue. I'm writing about my feelings. And Charlie was doing the same thing. So when I read some of his poems, it's like, wow, I felt like I wrote that. And that we're in touch with it, sharing it. And it's just, I just open randomly, and this is intertwined, which I feel is what the two of us are. Charlie wrote this. You remember when we held hands, each coming from different worlds, each extending into the vast beyond, time and space unknown, to find each other in blessed harmony. Now it is not just our hands that embrace, but our hearts. Our love making us as two branches intertwined. Now I just opened the book, but I think that's how I feel. The two of us are intertwined. And once I started talking to him about my other book, it's when this happened. Again, no coincidence. Because of what I heard coming from him. And what a pleasure. Yes, I could say he agrees with me, so that's why we get along. But we don't have to agree about everything. We can learn from each other.
A lot of your teachings, Dr. Siegel, are so apropos for just about every day of our lives, even when things are sort of going along every day, hunky-dory, smooth. But in the last few months, we've been going through some extraordinary things with a global pandemic,
Right.
economic losses, and now civil unrest. I've often been saying with people I've been talking to that this is sort of a almost like a reset that we are in, almost as if Mother Nature, the earth, and the divine said, look, I gave you people this beautiful earth, this beautiful opportunity, and I really didn't like the direction it was going in. So we're going to throw in a few things to turn the card upside down, and let's see what you do to work through that and if it'll bring you together. Because I think, we're doing all this social distancing now because we have to. But we were already going down a path where we were social distancing already because we had our heads stuck in our cell phones. We were watching what everybody else was doing on social media. We weren't listening to one another. Everything's so divisive, road rage, yelling and screaming. And now we have this time to rise from these ashes collectively, more creatively, with innovation and entrepreneurship, and hopefully a more deeper understanding of why we're here, how we all need each other, and maybe more empathy and kindness that everybody was complaining about was gone. Where's the kindness? Where's the empathy? Nobody says, thank you, I'm sorry, please. We're living in a land where everybody says something and then they have to retract and apologize for what they said, as opposed to maybe not saying it in the first place. Maybe we will rise from this, if we do it together, in a more beautiful experience.
Well, let me say two things. One is, we were told stay at home. And I feel that this pandemic has taught us the planet is our home. And if we're all going to survive, we damn well better stay at home and take care of our home. Not just our house, but our planet. And that we're all residents of the same. And just like I grew up in Brooklyn, the world is a Brooklyn. And
Right.
Understand, we're all part of the same family here. Again, I opened to another page. It says start by myself. Start now, not thinking about it, but doing it. Once you've begun, it all changes. No more thinking and scheduling. We are in it now, doing, working, living. Life makes its own schedule. If we start living it now. And that's what people need to do. And it's sad, but too many people wait until they're knocked on the head and told you'll be dead soon to start living. And that's what we all need to understand. We're all going to be dead one day. We don't really die, though. I mean, our consciousness, believe me, keeps going into a new body. But the more we learn in this life, the better the next generation will be.
That's right, exactly. It's about paying it forward.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If everybody Charlie's age were like Charlie, boy, I wouldn't worry about the next world. You know what I mean? Life in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in terms of what are some of the things, Dr. Siegel, that you turn to? People always like to know what the doctor does to get through some of those things in life that aren't always the most pleasant.
So let me say thank you. I was thinking of that a minute ago, because what we don't study, as Jung said, the diagnosis helps the doctor, but it doesn't help the patient. So they're the key thing is the story. So I learned to say to people, what are you experiencing in this story? When they say failure, my body failed. And I say, no, how does failure fit your life? Oh, my parents committed suicide when I was a child. I must have been a failure as a child. So I would say to people, no matter what your problem is, describe words and ask, what else in my life is those words? But the other is, why are you a doctor? Why are you a policeman? Okay? And there are healthy and unhealthy reasons. I was a police surgeon in New Haven, Connecticut. I saw what it was like to be on the street. Some of them If I say, yes, I want a gun, I want to protect people, I want to make the street safer. And somebody else is, I want power, I want the gun. Yeah. And the same is true of doctors. They become doctors. I became a doctor to help people. And that's what was so painful. You can't help everybody. And boy, I felt awful. And those are the patients I remember. All the ones where everything went wrong.
Right.
The people walk up to me and say, remember me? I say, no, because everything went fine, so I don't remember you. But when we train people for professions, why are you choosing this profession? What are the healthy reasons? What are the unhealthy reasons? So that we can take better care of people and the world.
Absolutely. Before you came on, Dr. Charla and I were talking about how when you have an opportunity to get in touch with self, it's a beautiful thing, because sometimes we're not always doing that. And you're both caretaker types. I'm a caretaker type. So I was telling him about this experience I had when we were in Nevada, just west of Las Vegas. I was on a television shoot, and the television shoot wrapped up, and we had about a day and a half left. I was actually interviewing this oil painter, this renowned oil painter, at her home with her husband. It was a beautiful interview. We were all wrapped. The camera guy and crew had to go back to Los Angeles. I still had about a day and a half left before I had to take the flight from Las Vegas back east and go home. So we were in this town called Pahrump, Nevada. Never heard of it before. A real desert town. And when we were all done and everybody dispersed, I had the rental car. And I like to explore areas, especially places I haven't been. So this little desert town, Pahrump, Nevada, was very fascinating to me. So I'm driving through the town and I'm looking at all the, very visual as well. So I'm looking at the buildings, I'm looking at the topography, geography, sun setting, the whole thing. And I keep seeing the signs for Death Valley National Park. And I said, well, gee, this is interesting. Death Valley is something monumental. It's something you see in the movies, something you see on television. It's like this ominous place. And it's this one road that goes on forever, and it's risky and it's dangerous, and this was in August, so it's like 110 already in Las Vegas. So in Death Valley it's like 130. Wild windstorms, it snows in one part, it's hot as anything in another part, and it's a road and a place where when you go, you're supposed to go with other people in the car. You're supposed to have water. You're supposed to have cell phones charged. You're supposed to make sure the car is checked out and tell other people that you're going to be driving into a place like Death Valley because you might not come out. So I was driving through the town of Pahrump, and for some reason, every turn I made led me to the entrance of Death Valley. Now, I've mentioned to a few people that for me, my solace is the ocean. I grew up on the coast in New York on Long Island originally, and then along southern New England coast. And the ocean is the go-to for me. I feel very connected with the ocean. You have to drag me out of the ocean. I'm very in touch. I give all props and respect to the ocean. So what I experienced, which was a life-changing experience, could not have happened at the ocean. It couldn't have happened with the lights, camera, and action of the city and the vibrancy and color and lights and energy of a city. And it couldn't have happened in a forest, a lush, beautiful, quiet, peaceful forest. It had to be in a stripped, bare desert. So I get brought to this entrance with this rental car again, Death Valley. And I say, what the heck? I'll start driving in. So I start driving in with no script, no plan. Nobody knows I'm doing it. I'm killing time until the flight the next morning. And the first 15 minutes of driving into Death Valley, I felt extraordinary guilt. And the guilt that I felt was that I was not sharing what I was visualizing, what I was seeing, the beauty, the rawness of the desert and the expansiveness of it and the raw nature that I was seeing. And I had put Death Valley on a monumental pedestal as a place that if you're going to go to it, and if you're loved ones and friends are, so you can feel each other's energy, hear their oohs in their ahs, and that feeds me by presenting something to other people that inspires them, delights them, to smile on their face. So I'm driving alone in this rental car into Death Valley without that opportunity to be sharing this with loved ones and friends. And there was an uncomfortability about that I wasn't sharing this. Well, why do I get to see that? Why am I getting to vision that? And, oh my God, look at that sun setting. Look at those 4 rainbows coming out of the mountain, out of the sky, bouncing off the mountain, creating what looks like a volcanic explosion. How come only I get to see this? So I'm driving through, and I feel 3 extraordinary energies. One is the power and the energy of the earth, that I'm actually on a planet in a galaxy, something larger than me. I'm feeling this energy of the earth. The second thing that was extremely deep was the feeling of the pull of nature, that I'm surrounded by raw nature all around me. The third was a feeling of the divine, something larger than me that's guiding me through this very risky, uncharted situation of a road that goes on forever, ever into Death Valley of all places. So I felt this extreme guilt of not having the loved ones and friends in the car sharing it with me. So I felt also that I was given a choice by Earth, divine, and nature to either turn that car back and come back one day, if I'm ever back in Pahrump, Nevada, with the family and friends and experience this monumental place with those loved ones and friends. Something pushed me forward to say, don't go back to the hotel. Keep going. See what happens. You've never done this before. You don't know where that road leads. You don't have family and friends to share this with in that car, and it's all up to you in that car. You don't have all the supplies. This is all total risk, and you're in strict, rare, raw earth nature in the desert. Keep going. So I felt like I was guided to keep going, and I kept going, and I drove all the way through and all the way back. And it was an extraordinary, life-changing experience to do that without family and friends. It's such a risky, it had to be a risky environment. And because if it was a comfortable environment like the ocean or family and friends, I might not have gotten the things I got out of it. And what I got out of it was 3 things that I know you talk about often. And one was the understanding that there will be experiences in my life that won't always have the loved ones and the friends in the room with me, and that it's okay to have that experience because that experience was meant for you. It's not greedy or selfish to have an experience like what you witnessed and what you saw just for you, because when you tell the story, that's when it'll inspire other people. They didn't have to be in the car with you. So number 1 was understanding that it's not selfish. It's okay to have experiences without being the one presenting these wonderful experiences for others. It's very communal. The second thing I learned from that was that the world will continue to spin on its axis, whether I'm always putting out all its fires and rescuing it and saving everybody and running to everybody, and that I need to pause and tend to my fires sometimes, as well as I run to put out everybody else's. Because a lot of people always, in my career and in every other aspect of life, people come to me to sort of solve their problems and comfort them and ease things for them, which I love to do naturally. But I understood in being in this environment where I was totally dependent on me and these 3 energies, that I needed to realize that the world keeps spinning whether I see it all the time as well. And the third thing is, I always used to have a problem on the plane when I would hear the flight attendant say, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on other people. Because I was always raised, and I was always of the understanding that help thy fellow man. So put it on them first, get them taken care of, then put the oxygen mask on you. Now I understand you have to put it on yourself first in order to be able to put it on other people. So that experience at Death Valley, and I was telling it briefly to Charlie before you came on, and I've only told a few people about it, was life-changing because it didn't change the essence of who I am as a person, the way I think, soulfulness, heart-centric, all of that. But it reaffirmed a few things for me that I was in touch basically with self in that rental car driving through Death Valley during that time. And that's a beautiful thing when you have moments like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I hear voices. You know, if you say go to Death Valley, if you tell me what to say when my father was dying, I mean, a whole host of things that have just been incredible. Oh, one day I got to tell you this: I was singing, "I am strong, but thou art weak," and I heard a voice say, "You have the lyrics wrong." And I realized that it's supposed to be, "I am weak, but thou art strong." You know, he that saved me from a whole wrong. And I'm singing, "I am strong and thou art weak." And I literally heard God's voice say, "You have the lyrics wrong." But then the voice said, "But you know, I've done a good job with you, so never mind. Go ahead and keep singing." And that really, as my wife says, that comes from God knows where. So I listen to that voice. It sometimes tells me how to drive home, where to park, you know, when to go shopping. And it's incredible the things that I have found when I pull into that space and get out of my car and what's lying on the ground, you know, that's meaningful for me. You know, the pennies from heaven.
Yeah. Do you attribute, a couple of people are saying they're having a lot of trouble, I guess, with the sound.
Yeah. You want me to try again to?
Maybe there's, are your speakers up or something?
I don't know. I don't always have trouble. I mean, most of the time I don't have trouble with the sound. So I don't know what it is in the system. But if you want me to leave and come back, or
maybe, yeah, try that again. It just could be a weird connection, maybe. Okay. They're all saying they're loving it, but they're having. Now, do you still hear it too, a little bit?
Sounds okay to me.
Odd,
now.
it?
Oh, it sounds okay to me.
So you're good.
Yeah.
So everything's good.
Yeah.
Yes. So
you faded out a little bit a couple times. You faded out a little bit a couple times before, but not too bad.
But you don't hear that echo of that sort of humming sound or that sort of engine sound. It was something I think on his audio. So maybe when he comes back, because people are saying they're having a little trouble with the sound. But how about you? Have you ever had an experience? Do you have a Death Valley story where you really were in touch with self and it sort of reaffirmed some things for you as far as that you realize as caring a person as you are for others, you also have to tend to your own self to be able to continue to do that?
Yeah, that's part of the spiritual lessons, and what my mom teaches is if you think of yourself like a tool for light to help the world, you got to keep the tool in working orders, like taking your car into the shop and getting it worked on. So that that self-care, that you had a great analogy with the oxygen mask, so that you're okay, and then you can continue to help even more by taking care of you, or loving yourself, then you can love others more. It's a wheel that feeds itself to take care of yourself to help others.
Right.
There's some of my photography in our book here that it's Northern Lights photography. It was the second time that I got to go to Iceland. The day that I was leaving for the airport, actually, I got an email from the people that were teaching the photography, running the trip. They sent an email that the forecast for the Northern Lights, which is only like a day and a half or so ahead, was showing that a lot of them were coming. So they were going to restructure the start of the trip to get us to get to see it and to train us in how to do the night photography. So they set it all up for us to get us out to a lake that night. And those first 2 nights of my trip, we got to photograph Northern Lights that were better than they'd had in like 10 years in Iceland, filling the whole night sky, like horizon to horizon, some formations that are really rare. And I actually got 2 photographs in that series also that you can see like an angelic kind of form, and one of them has like a distinct face in it in the sky too. So I got some really remarkable stuff. And to me, like when people ask, like if I know why that happened, kind of thing, I went with the intention, and I photographed with the intention that I want my work to be like a window for people to connect with nature through, to better connect and know themselves, and we're all a piece of this nature and this world, and then you can better love yourself and others, and having that respect for nature. So when I'm photographing with the idea that like I want to help other people through this work, I've seen it with animals that like there's a couple hawk photographs, there's a great blue heron photograph where they'll like hold still and pose for a picture, and they have this kind of sense of feeling that like I just want to make those birds famous and share their beauty with people. I want to capture something as awesome as it can be so I can share it with others and help them. And I'm doing what I love in the process, so I'm getting something out of it. But I feel like when we live with that, like doing what you love but doing it to help other people at the same time, you have this sort of dynamic balance that like nature can feel that. And I feel like that timing for the way the northern lights worked out, or the way the animals are in the pictures, it's because I'm walking around with that, like I want to take pictures to help people. So that getting to photograph the northern lights like that showed me like the depth that feeling can have, that when you're doing stuff to help other people, that radiates out. It can be noticed and felt. Everything's an energy in there or another.
Right, exactly.
So nature has all the answers, and I think Charlie sees that, and I see that. I mean it. Nature is a therapist. I tell people, take a walk. You don't need a psychiatrist. And we both wrote a poem called Trees, because one of the things I noticed, we had so many animals. You mentioned the book Love Animals and Miracles. Our house was a zoo. And I had fences nailed up to trees all around the house that contain all the exotic pets and goats and ducks and geese and everything. And I noticed something. When I went to change them and take them down, the tree had grown around the nails and the wire. Now, to me, that was therapy. Somebody sticks a nail in you, and what do? You just take it in and grow around it. And the other was seeing a plant grow up through our newly paved road by our house. I mean, the road was paved, you're talking about a couple of inches of asphalt, and suddenly it cracks and the plant comes out. So I literally brought our family down and say, we're going to have a therapy group. Come with me. I said, you run into trouble, you keep pushing, and you break out into the light. I said, first of all, how did the seed know which way was up? It has intelligence. It can sense gravity. It doesn't quit when it hits the wall. It keeps going. And then one of our kids said, oh, Dad, but you stop it. Just a skunk happened. I said, that's not the point. It's what it did that I'm trying to get across to you. It's not some exotic plant. But that impresses the hell out of me. The wisdom is in us. So when you cut your finger, you cover it with a Band-Aid, and it heals. And so that's built into us. But we need to give the body a message. I love my life. I want to heal. And, I could take up a lot of time telling you stories about
No, but I think it's very interesting that you bring up that story about being fascinated and having to share and show the rest of the family that plant or weed or whatever coming up through the asphalt, because I can't tell you how many times, Dr. Siegel, I have been stuck in traffic where I'm on a highway where there's the Jersey barrier and there's no soil, and there's like, you don't see anything that would normally be able to be a perfect environment for anything to grow. It's the middle of a highway. It's 95 degrees and you're at a toll booth in New York City or whatever it is. The last place you would think, in the middle of the highway, creeping out of a Jersey barrier in a little crevice, is a weed or a plant with a flower. And you're like, how the heck is that thing surviving? So I pointed that out, and I noticed things like that too. And it fascinates me to see the resiliency of life to be able to survive in those conditions when we think that's unsurvivable and that's not natural for that plant to be coming out of the crack of a Jersey barrier in a major highway in a major city.
Two more points, I'd say. One is, now I get so many things in my mind, I already forgot the first
Oh, you
one.
know what Renee says? This is so
What?
perfect. Renee Katz says, a tree grows in
Those in
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, that's right.
That's
But
so
oh, I know. One is to be what I call a love warrior. When people are driving you crazy, tell them you love them. And I mean, I don't have time now to tell you all the stories of violent people. I have said, I don't know what's going on in your life, but I want you to know I love you. Or I want you to know I love you. I'm sorry your parents don't. Just move them away for me to say that statement, like a violent person out on the street. They have always turned and walked away quietly. And our family was always yelling at me, they could have a gun. Yeah, they could. But when I said I love you, they all stopped and went the other way. So I say to people, when you're being driven crazy, let the person know, I love you, then they don't know what to do with you.
That's the same thing as learning to be able to forgive even those who trespass against us.
When you forgive, you give yourself a gift. Forgetting doesn't get you anything, believe me. But we're all wounded, and I mean that. I often tell people, put a bandage on and go shopping, go to work, and watch how people tell you all about their troubles now that they see you've got something.
Right.
They're always thinking, I'm the only one who has all. No, we're all wounded.
Well,
This is what I call a labor pain. Birth yourself.
Right. And this pandemic and everything we've been going through shows us that, things happen in life that really can affect every single one of us at the same time.
Right.
And so tremendous learning opportunities, aren't they?
And the more you learn, the better your next life will be.
Sometimes it's those challenges and things that shape us and make us who we are. There's a great Rumi quote that the wound is where the light gets in, and like maybe those experiences make you who you are on purpose in a way, so you can grow from it, or you can share lessons from it.
Yeah, that's in many religions. When you have a cracked vase, but that's where the light can come through.
Yeah,
into the darkness.
Exactly.
And those are the things we need to pay attention to and learn.
Right.
That's why I say God is redirecting you. That was my mother's way of saying the cracks, may light up the way and show you something new.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, though, as a kid, I didn't find it fun talking to God all the time because my mother wasn't helping me. Because I would shut the bedroom door, sit on my bed and talk to God because I was afraid if people heard me or knew what I was doing, they'd say, you need a psychiatrist.
So when you look at this body of work, I mean, a retired surgeon, you could easily just be relaxing and just saying, I'm going to go by the beach and just pause. But that's not in you. You continue to inspire people, empower people. Where do you think that comes from? This continued passion and this calling that you have, that your grandson obviously has as well.
Partly from a past life, and because that experience happened to me when somebody said on the phone, "Why are you living this life?" I went into a trance. But I will make a long story short. I killed with a sword. I was a knight in Ireland, and I killed with a sword. And I really felt I became a surgeon without knowing that. I mean, I didn't become a surgeon having lived that experience. This happened many years later when a friend said, "You're so damn busy. Why are you living this life?" And that's when I went into a trance. And I felt that with a knife in my hand, I was helping people now. And something you said earlier, you said words. if you write, as one of our children did, words, 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 they become stored, 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 stored. And that canvas is hanging on the wall in the house that one of our kids made at school. When he walked in the door, bringing that home from school, that was a therapy session for me, that I can feel a cure with words or stories. So I also learned how to talk to people, to people. You know, that life is not about statistics. It's
Right.
about your potential. And I don't fight wars either with diseases or problems. And it changes you and your life and your ability to heal. And I'd say probably Charlie and I had something to do in a past life too.
Right.
Come together. Because since he was born, because you can see his dimples. And when he was a baby, I used to use his picture to show people at a lecture. You know, you show this smiling baby with big dimples, and everybody go, "Oh." I say, "Yeah, but now what if I put your picture up there? You think everybody go, oh?" I said, "But that's you. You know what I mean? We're all that child, and don't lose that image of yourself."
Don't you just love what he just said, Charlie? Yeah, this is great. I remember some of the lectures that I would go to, and like we'd bring his books and stuff through my mom's store, and I'd see my little kid picture up on the screen with those lectures, and yeah, it's cool. I've always been a part of it.
You know, it's very inspiring what the two of you have done with the book and what you're continuing to do, because just the connection of the generations and the thread of life within your family and between the two of you, it's something that is truly a blessing that not a lot of people get to do with grandfather and grandson and the perspectives, and to be able to be that continue, both of you, all of us being eternal students, lifelong learners, but at the same time to see actually before your eyes in writing and in life the similarities and that thread and the connective tissue between the two of you that book presents, but also is in everyday life for the two of you. It's a very special and beautiful situation, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible.
That's really nice.
Incredible. That's why I said when I was getting his help with the other book, and then this just blossomed, bringing forth what is within you. Well, that's the biblical line. If
Absolutely.
You do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. If you bring forth what's within you, what you bring forth will save you. And he was helping me to bring forth so I could write. And also what was coming from him impressed me. Yeah, he's a wise old man in a younger body.
Yeah, I can relate, because my father has always said that I was born 30 years too late, or that I should have gone into comedy. One or the other. I want to show people the cover of that book, and there it is there. Of course, it's really a beautiful, beautiful book. It sort of takes Charlie out there, but when you realize how perfect everything is, the conversation about life between grandfather and grandson. Also, while we're here, I want you to talk a little bit, if you can, about this book too. No endings, only beginnings. And I think, the doctor's notes on living, loving, and learning who you are. I think that's a very special book, because I am a very bad goodbye person, an ender of good times and connection and situations. I've never been great at the goodbye. So no ending, just beginnings. I mean, that's perfect.
Let me say that I'm rereading it every night, another chapter, because I'm still learning from what I've written. And one other book I must mention, my 365 Prescriptions for the Soul. I recommend that for everybody. I'm still reading that, and my old journals that are lying here next to the computer. Every morning I read those things as well as at night, because it's moments of wisdom that I've written about. So I would say to everybody, write your own book. I mean, keep a journal of your feelings, of the things that happen in your life, and the humorous things too. Don't forget them, because that was something my wife had to remind me were never in my journal. I thought that was so interesting. All I'm writing about is my pain and burying it all. So, to me, that book is like a guidebook for life that teaching you chapter by chapter how to live, how to experience life. And the reason I was thinking of it as Bible too, but I call it a guidebook. Let's put it that way. And the no endings, only beginnings is literally true. I had a near-death experience as a 4-year-old, so I know what it's all about. I've been there. And I know that our body dies, but we don't. And so our consciousness goes on. And the best example for me is always the 5-year-old playing a violin on television. And you say, how the hell is a 5-year-old? Yeah. Well, the kid says, when I saw a violin, I had to run over and grab it. I don't know why. And not that violinist in him, if you know what I mean. So he didn't understand what he was doing, but he had that talent. And that's for all of us. So it's to help guide people some topics. Begin your quest for truth. Live authentically. Be an agent of change. Seek the creator everywhere. Love. Explore mysteries. Share stories. Understanding that endings are always beginnings. And we're redefining ourselves and life. And it's not a coincidence sometimes when you have shared, my wife and I shared a past life experience. It was a tragic one. I'm not going to get into it. But when I had my past life experience, there she was. I cried for hours. But I realized why it brought us together. Our having a date was a coincidence. She was so pretty, I never even thought of asking her to go out with me. And I was talking about something, and she said, are you asking me on a date? Because it was about a pool at a camp we worked at that was open at night. And I wasn't. I was just saying, it's nice that it's here. But as soon as she said he asked me for a date, I said, oh, yeah. And we end up getting married. You say, wow, what a coincidence. Well, I would say it wasn't a coincidence. There was something there. Keep your mind quiet. That's the key. Then the truth comes forward. And I always say, from my animal intuitive friend, Amelia Kincaid, who would yell at me, Bernie, stop screaming your animal's name. Quiet your mind, you'll know where the animal is. And it's incredible. I talk to animals all the time. And the other is the still calm. If there's turbulence, you don't know you're a swan. You still think you're another duckling. Joseph Campbell talks about the tiger brought up by goats. So he thinks he's a goat. Until another tiger says, hey, stupid, come with me. And he takes him to a still pond. Look, you're a tiger. And that's what most people never do. Quiet your mind. There's one other point I'd make that you can do. A suicidal kid was in the office talking to me, teenager, and she said, you're my CD. I said, what the hell are you talking about? She said, you're my chosen dad. And boy, I never forgot that moment. And I say, you can be a CM or a CD. Because when you give people that love, it saves their lives, literally. I've had suicidal people on the telephone telling me they're going to kill themselves and they're saying goodbye. I said, I love you. I'll be your father. And there are a lot of people alive today because I said that to them. I have to tell you one, though, also my sense of humor. I was a police surgeon in New Haven. I get a phone call from one of the policemen, a former football player, a big guy. Dr. Siegel, what is it, Jimmy? I'm committing suicide. I called to say goodbye. I knew why he called was for sympathy. So I said to him, Jimmy, if you commit suicide, I'll never talk to you again. Because I knew anything else I said wasn't going to do anything. So I hang up the phone. About 10 minutes later, the door of the office bursts open and in comes this 6-foot-plus football player. I thought he was going to throw me out the window, screaming, "You insensitive, idiotic human being. I've got a gun in my mouth. I'm going to blow my brains out, and you say something stupid." I said, "Jimmy, did you notice something?" "What?" "You're not dead." And then he burst out laughing, and he looked at me like, "Oh, you're a smart ass. You did that, and you knew it would work." And so he and I became lifetime friends. But I'd say, don't ever forget, humor has an incredible impact on people. It eliminates fear. I would use the operating room all the time.
Yeah. It's really amazing. It is so absolutely true. And when you hear wisdom like that coming from your grandfather, how does that make you feel, Charlie?
It's an amazing story.
Isn't it really?
It is, and he talks about like listening to yourself, listening to things that come to you. There's one of my poems in the book it's one of my favorites of all of my work, and it was, I got up in the morning and I had this poem in my head, like I could hear it, and I thought, I'm gonna go brush my teeth and get ready. I'll write it when I get time to write it, and I should write it now and make sure I get it down. And it took like a minute to type it out. And it's been one of my poems that's been the most meaningful for people. It's the when peace becomes you, in the emotion section of our book. And that really listening to yourself, it's letting those thoughts be there and following through with it. There's a whole premise to a novel that it's kind of a funny story, that I was brushing my teeth one night when, like, I'd rather just go to bed. I don't want to stay up and do this. And I'm standing there like half falling asleep after a long work day, and kind of like that half asleep, half awake feeling. I'm brushing my teeth and like watched like the whole story play out of a novel that I'm working on now. And those kind of times where like kind of believe in yourself and let those things come to you. I've grown up meditating, and that's an important thing too, to meditate, to listen to what's in there naturally inside you. It changes things. Sometimes we get busy, and it's easy for all of us to get busy in the world now. But there's more inside sometimes when you take the time to listen to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an important lesson for anybody out there. In college, the only C I got in 4 years was creative writing. And now I'm almost up to 20 books. Mm-hmm. But what I learned was just what Charlie said. You have to quiet your mind. Stop thinking. Write what comes from within you, from your consciousness. My friend, what's his name? I got a mental blank of the title of the book. About the gang, the gang, the mafia. What's his name? The book. Anyway, if you can't think of it, try to think of it. It was made into a movie, big movie and everything. But
The Godfather?
Fine. Yeah. The Godfather, Mario Puzo. He would go in his office, sit down and say, I'm going to go write. And then you'd look in and he isn't doing anything. And you say, how come? You said you were going to write. I'm waiting for the character to tell me what to say. I love that comment, because that's like the still mind, and he's going to get the message and write beautiful books. And I was a science major who was thinking of what he should say and so I got my C. But today I'm not thinking. I call it, from William Saroyan, wonderful, that if anybody wants to write a book, do this. An author, this is during the war. He's writing about the war. He has a young soldier helping him. The author comes into the office, says to the young man, you're a good writer too. And the young fellow says, I've never written anything. What are you talking about? Oh, the letter on the desk to your father. It's beautiful. He said, it's only a letter to my father. And the author says, then write a letter to everyone. And that's what I started doing when I became, running group therapy for cancer patients. And I'd get letters. I'd sit up half the night answering letters. And I just wrote from my heart, and that's what I kept doing after that. So even the first book I wrote, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, I talked it because I couldn't sit and type it and think about it. So I sat with a recorder and talked for hours and hours and hours. And then they typed it out and put it together with editing and made it into a book.
And the response to that book has been extraordinary. When you hear from people around the world, Bernie, about how your wisdom and your understanding of the human condition and how you so beautifully relate to people, how does that make you feel? Does it just reinforce things for you?
Well, it makes me feel that my life is worthwhile, and I helped someone. So it gave my life meaning. And again, the book getting written wasn't my idea, because of what happened in college. I never expected to write a book. I was going speaking everywhere. And I may add, I've been to every state with my wife, and life is different in every state. Like Montana has a better survival rate for cancer than New York City. Why? Because the people who know you and care about you are taking care of you. But, I learned my mind. I go from one thought into another. Is that I'm here to help. And that's my goal and why I want to write. I think of it, as I said, as Bible 2, an instruction book, how you're supposed to live, what can help you. And I was considered so controversial. I was on every famous talk show because it didn't make sense. I was blaming patients, talking to them about their lives. So it's their fault they got sick. It's such nonsense. Now It's different scientifically. We know how genes respond to different things. And people need to remember that. Act as if you're the person you want to be. Rehearse and practice and become that person. And what you act as and believe is what happens, and your body believes it. So, literally, you don't need to have an operation to do well. You spend 2 weeks, 3 or 4 times a day picturing yourself going to the hospital, having surgery, waking up, feeling wonderful, going home. So by the time you get there 2 weeks later, your body has already had 50 operations with no trouble. So why should this one be a problem? And it's amazing how powerful the mind is. On my website, BernieSiegelMD.com, I have an article entitled Deceiving People into Health. I lied to people all the time for their benefit. Okay? And when I say that, you have to understand, I did a lot of children's surgery. So I lied to children. The simplest thing I often mention, you take an alcohol sponge and you say to the child, oh, these are new and they numb your skin. They not only clean it, but they numb it. You're so lucky. We got this new one. 80% of the kids say, oh, thank you. Why don't the other doctors do that? 20% said, I felt the needle, but it wasn't the same. You know what I mean? None of them. Oh, and yeah, everybody had improvement, and I'm lying, but it works beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
I hear funny stories from families too, where somebody who has poor vision asks their family member to give them their medication, and the family member gives them the wrong pill. And they still got better because, as this one woman said to her daughter, that's not my medication. She said, it worked perfectly 4 hours ago, Mom, when you didn't have your glasses on.
So it's almost the placebo effect.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Mind over matter.
Yeah. And it's powerful.
Mm.
That's why I say that, and laughter.
Laughter is huge. Yeah. Releasing those endorphins, those feel-good hormones. So there's a lot of people right now who feel, Dr. Siegel, that everything they're experiencing right now is an ending. Life as we knew it before pandemic, economic, civil unrest, everything we've been experiencing the last couple of months, is everything has now ended, and we've been shifted into a whole new thing. So with the understanding of there are no endings, what words of inspiration do you have for people who feel like they feel like everything is stopped and ended?
I'd say compare it as one woman did. 9 months seems like a long time. I watch my body change. Tired, I sit staring out at life. I live within my mind. Books and music transport me beyond my body. 9 months pass. I give birth to my child. All the discomfort and pain is now justified. 12 months, chemotherapy and radiation. You can put any word, anything going through. But the same poem ends with 12 months pass. I give birth to my child. All the discomfort and pain is now justified. So I say, see what you're going through in life as a labor pain and learn from it, and give birth to something. Then it doesn't hurt as much either. And the birthing can be you creating a new life, changing things, but learning from the pain, and then it doesn't hurt.
That's very true. And that's what we have to do. We have to learn from what we're going through and again, come out of it, maybe not returning to normal, but maybe better.
That's why I say what impresses me about Charlie is I don't know how he got so smart so young. You know, that most people will go through these troubles, see a psychiatrist or get angry, or, you know, just are troubled. But he gave birth to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As did you, Dr. Siegel. You know, it was really a joy to have both of you here. And I hope the door's always open. I hope we can have you guys back so we can chat some more, because I think a dose of your wisdom and understanding, which I totally am in line with in terms of how I live my life, is something that people need to continually hear, not just once in a while when it's special or when we're going through things, but to be reminded of in our daily lives all the time, right?
Yes. Let me say that when you want to change people, tell them stories, because then they can't argue with you about it's statistically invalid, or especially when I'm talking to doctors. I tell stories. Then they walk out not feeling threatened and know the story in their life. Then things begin to change. Their beliefs begin to shift.
Right.
One doctor just goes out to stop talking because I think most people. But he wrote a book called Healing Lessons about his wife, Dr. Sidney Winterworth, going to Sloan Kettering years ago. And in the book, he sent me a copy. It says, I want to apologize to Dr. Siegel. So when I read that, I said, I'll call him up. He hasn't caused me any trouble. What is he apologizing for? And he said, I was apologizing for what I thought of you. Now that my wife has cancer, you are an enormous help, and you're in the living room with us all the time. You know, my books and CDs and things, recordings. And that was an interesting comment, see? And so I'd say to people, if you're not a native, in other words, if you haven't experienced something, you're a tourist. And don't tell the natives what they should be thinking and know if you're still a tourist. You know, it's like you talked about going through Death Valley. That's a wonderful, simile, because if you haven't been through it, you don't understand what it's like. And every experience can be a Death Valley.
That's very true. Absolutely. And that's really how we have to look at it that way. So I tell people that the sun will rise and set tomorrow. The ocean tides will come in. The birds will still chirp. And to think about the little things in life and those blessings. And again, your book is such a testament to that. Think about the things, the fact that you're there and you're alive, and Charlie's there and alive, and I'm here, and there's people watching from literally all over the world. And we have all of this energy, and there's potential for love and inspiration almost every day of our lives, right?
Generally, I don't write fiction, but I tell people, read fiction if you want to know the truth. The fiction writers observe the world, create characters. I do have another book that should be coming out sometime soon called 3 Men, 6 Lives, because it's about past lives and what I experienced. So I know these things are true and real because I'm talking about what I have lived. And they're not due to drugs or alcohol. they're due to things I have experienced, and not even asking for them to happen, but they did. And so I know it's real and it's a part of life. And I know we all have that in our lives. So we may not experience.
Exactly. You know, I think I found out we thought that the sound was coming from your end. I think it's actually coming from Charlie's end, because you notice when I take Charlie out,
Yeah, it
it's
gets
gone.
quiet.
Yeah. So we were blaming you, and it wasn't you. Something probably in the Wi-Fi, living in the notch there, right? You're in the notch.
Yeah.
So we found it out. Life isn't perfect, but we'll have to have you guys on so they hear more than just every third word. But it's the third word that counts, right?
Everybody hears what they want to hear.
That's right. That's exactly
That's
right.
why I could see that in audiences. You know, if they agreed with you, they loved what you said.
Mm.
And one other thing we can talk about, I have an angel, literally, that people have seen. That I met in a meditation, and people have seen him standing next to me when I was lecturing and speaking, and even drew his picture. So I know who they're talking about. But this is why I'm not a normal person, because I have had so many crazy and unbelievable experiences. I always say my life should be a movie. I was born to a mother who was told not to have children because she was so sick it might kill her. So my life started as a disaster too. And I learned about that from my mother many years later. But you know, as I went along, having a near-death experience, having body experiences, because my grandmother pushed things back where they belonged when I was an infant, because I was a mess when, after several weeks, they pulled me out with a high forceps delivery. And my grandmother pushed things back where they belonged. That's a quote from my mother. And when my head was massaged by a woman 50 years later, I went into a trance and became an infant again. And everybody, well, when I opened my eyes, the room was filled with people, because they said, we thought you had a heart attack or a stroke. You were gone. We couldn't talk to you. We couldn't communicate. And I told them I had become an infant, so I couldn't talk to them or answer them because of that woman's hands were like my grandmother. And again, when you live the experience, you don't need proof of anything. It's real. And I try to pass that on to other people so that they use it in their lives to help them heal. And again, that's the dreams, the drawings, meditations. Mind and body communicate, and your body believes what your mind conceives of.
And sometimes that can be scary for some people too, right? When it's something that they haven't experienced or seen or perceived of.
Well, that's why they
previously
have to program themselves. I mean, I've had people who were so angry at their body for its deformities and didn't want to die, quote, hating my body. Imagine lying naked in front of a mirror and loving your body and your disease going away. Okay? A landscaper who I operate on, I told him, you need more treatment. No, it's springtime. Go home, make the world beautiful. And I die, I'll leave a beautiful world. 6 years later, he was in the office because he had a hernia from lifting boulders in his landscape business. Mm-hmm. And he became my therapist. You know, like Charlie's talking about nature and his photography. I used to spend days with him seeing how beautiful the world was. And he lived to 91 with no sign of cancer again. Mm-hmm. So keep up the relationships, get a dog or some other pet, and you'll live a longer, healthier life. It's the chemistry that happens in you and why the women outlive the men with the same cancers. Because the women are saying, these are quotes in the office, I have 9 children. I can't die till they're all married and out of the house. 20 years later, the last one went and she died. It blew my mind that she could control it for 20 years. And the men say, I can't work. What's the point of living? And their wife and children are in the room with them when they say that. And I point that out. So develop relationships. They say whether it's furry creatures or people, it'll keep you going.
Exactly. We're not meant to be alone, right? We're not meant to be alone.
Yeah, we're family. We're all family.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have to realize. And as I say, living in the same home, our planet.
And for people that are just joining us now, talk a little bit about your wonderful nature photography that you do and how that so inspires other people, Charlie, in such a beautiful way.
Sure. I started off doing photography locally right here in New England, in the US. And I started my business doing greeting cards and prints and canvas and stuff with that. And instead of a college course, I went off to Iceland twice for in the field photography training. So I've got a large scope of work from the US, from Iceland. I was in Japan last summer, did some photography in the temples and some of the like the sacred sites out in Japan. So to bring all of that back and to be able to offer that for people, I have a Facebook and an Instagram, Nature Photo by SC. I do the photography by SC, S like Sam, C like Charlie. I have that because when I started off my business and had to put a name on it, I wanted to do this where it's not really like my name on it, because like my writing, I'll sign that. That's something I wrote and created. But for my photography, I'm capturing something bigger than me that's already there, already created, and I'm admiring it and wanting to pass that and share that with other people. So not having my name on it, and I also want people to recognize the photography for if they connect with it without having to see me in the beginning. My photography has this big scope of work, from the northern lights, like I was talking about, landscapes, wildlife, and it's all these things that are naturally beautiful already. I don't process my work very much. I just make it look like it did in person, so that I can bring that beauty to people and help to change them. There's some great studies that have been done about when you look at nature imagery, like in a medical center or in a hospital or just in your own home, it brings you to this peace. I was reading a study recently that when you go out and spend time in nature, they said it was an hour and a half of time in nature. It was the point when it changed the amount of blood flow that was going to the part of the brain that's responsible for negative thinking. It reduced that. So like medically, they can explain that time in nature helps you. But there's a poem in our book here, in the emotions chapter, Even Stone is Worn Away. And it talks through all of these symbols that are there in nature for us to teach us how to work through our emotions. You see the way that the trees release things, that they let go of it, that like the leaves, it goes back and it helps the future, helps the next generation. So the way that we can work through the issues that we have, they can then be tools we can use to help and to heal other people around us. That nature already has these lessons to give to us. So my photography and my writing, like one inspires the other, and all those messages are there that I want to get to show people and help inspire everybody.
So what does it feel like when you get the feedback from those, like your grandfather does, from so many people come up to him and tell him about how his work and his body of work has inspired them? How does it make you feel too, Charlie, when you get that feedback from others, how your writings and how your photography and your way of thinking inspires other people as well?
It means a lot to me, and for me, it's like another milestone along the path that I'm working on. That every life that my work touches and gets to help, like that's a meaningful piece of it. That we're all here as this interconnected web of life, in like a social aspect and in like an environmental aspect. So when we can help one another, that means a lot to me. I have this quote hung up on my wall here in I call it my writing room, where I write in here. It's a quote from Lao Tzu, that the master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings. Because he doesn't display himself, people can see his light. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he doesn't know who he is, people recognize themselves in him. Because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. I found that quote and I felt like it explained the way I name my photography business without my name. and the message that I go into photography work with, that I'm just here to help represent and capture beauty and help people see it. And I see examples where, like, happens to me too. I totally miss something cool that I could have noticed, and I appreciate when people point it out to me. So like some of the pictures I have for sale in my mom's store, there's these beautiful historic tobacco barns across the street from the store, and people will be buying a picture in the store and like, where is this? I want to travel and see it. And it's across the street, and it's like a hawk sitting on the barn or something. So like seeing those, and I love to take pictures of tiny things and make them look big, like little tiny wildflowers in the grass, and I'll do a huge canvas print of it. And helping people connect with those little things, like when you start to expand on the metaphor of it, there's little things in you that you might want to notice and expand on and grow or bring to the light so you can work on it. And having those little things in nature, it can touch us and change us.
And that's exactly right. It's beautiful when you notice those little things. Tell us about your mom's shop too, Wisdom by the Ages. That's a very special place.
Yeah. That's actually our slogan is a special place to nurture your spiritual side. Wisdom of the Ages, she started it when I was 3. It was a smaller shop for about 16 years or so. We expanded into a bigger place in the same plaza. So like we have a huge amount of crystals and gemstones. We have jewelry, Native American made pieces, local artwork, things to to touch and inspire people. And she teaches a whole variety of classes on meditation and chakra work and different spiritual topics that help people. I sit alongside her and help teach some of them. And in the bigger space that we're in now, I also lead my martial arts study group. I just lay mats down and lead it in the same class space there. So there's a lot of different things we offer. And she named it Wisdom of the Ages because she says, like, it's not a new age store. It's bringing traditional spirituality to people in a way that you can do in modern life and connect with that wisdom from all those ages, all those sources. So it means a lot to me to get to be a part of that. And then like my photography is all over the walls and stuff in there. So to have that facet of it means a lot to me. We've got a shelf that's all of Grandpa Bernie's books, and my bookshelf is underneath his now with 2 of my books. So it's nice to have this family connection and this way that we're all in this together to help each other.
Absolutely.
May I add from Charlie?
Yeah.
This is on one of his calendars. My candle burns not to dispel the darkness, but to put forth the light. And I think that's, a big part of what he has been sharing. And I can tell you, as studies have been done, if you're in a hospital room with natural photographs on the walls or paintings, and then you're in a hospital room with abstract paintings, the people with the photos or paintings of nature have less pain and are discharged sooner than the people with abstract paintings. And I see the same thing in doctors' offices. I find doctors who have lovely colored rooms, healthy blue, green, healing colors, and nice natural pictures on the wall. I know that's the kind of person I want taking care of me, not somebody with bizarre, stuff all over. Let me put it this way, because one doctor I had, the only thing on the wall was what you're going to die of. Big posters, breast cancer, heart attacks, diabetes. So you sit there for 20 minutes being told what you're going to die of instead of looking at something healing.
That's very true, because there is that white coat syndrome a little bit. I know that when I go to my doctor, as opposed to my mother, when my mother goes just for, routine physical, just going into that environment, her blood pressure goes up. Yep. But with me, I tell the doctor, any of the physicians that I visit, I tell them, you know what? When you check my blood pressure, you're going to notice that it's very calm, if not low. And they say, well, that's very unusual when you're in a doctor's office or a hospital setting. Most people are nervous about what the result is or what they're going to say or what they're going to find. And I said, well, for me, it's the opposite. I think that if anything is going to happen to me right here and right now, I am in the ultimate place because you guys are going to jump and react and you're going to do what you can to save me. Now, if I'm up in a cabin in northern Maine where the nearest hospital or doctor is maybe 6 hours away, then my blood pressure might actually go up.
Yeah.
But it goes down when I go to the doctor because there's a reassurance there that care is immediate if needed.
In the upstate Maine, Montana, better statistics for cancer survival than New York City.
Yeah.
People you know are taking care of you.
That's
I
right.
never forget the true story, about animals again. People were in upstate Maine, I think it was. Their son said, "Oh, before we go home, I want to do a bike ride." And then he crashes and is really beaten up. And they don't know how to get help. They're in the middle of nowhere. They don't know phone numbers. The dog was in the car. He jumped in the front seat and pushes the horn. And they had no idea what's he pushing the horn for. Dog never did that. In about 5 minutes, 4 cars show up. And they said, "What are you all doing here?" They said, "Well, we heard the emergency sound, the horn that didn't stop blowing. That's what we used so the neighbors know we had a problem and to come and help us." And they took the kid to the emergency room and took care of him. But those are not coincidences. How the hell does a dog push on the horn? That's why I say the consciousness is amazing. What it can accomplish.
Absolutely. Let's, for those joining us because of the sound craziness earlier, again, the book, When You Realize How Perfect Everything Is, a conversation about life between grandfather and grandson. Dr. Siegel, what is the hope that you have that people will be left with upon reading that book and absorbing and living that book?
Well, they'll know how to live a longer, healthier, happier life. Just examples of, and to bring forth what is within them. Because I heard over and over again from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and others, "What are you covering up?" It had to do with pictures I drew where I used a white crayon on a white paper. When I painted my self-portrait, it's in a cap, mask, and gown as if I'm in the operating room, and you don't even know it's me. And so it's to help people uncover what's within them so it doesn't damage them, and helps, as I say, to bring forth what is within you, all the talents, all the feelings, and to accomplish something and live yourself. So listen, read, and do. And don't get mad at yourself, if you know what I mean. I mean, we're trying to be your coaches. Coaches don't yell at you and say, "You stupid, clumsy idiot. What the hell are you doing here?" When I was in college, I met a wonderful coach, a swimming coach at Colgate University, Mark Randall. I grew up, as you said, in Brooklyn. I'd never been in a swimming pool, only in oceans and dirty lakes. And when I saw a sign about swimming team, I thought, "Oh, I love to swim." So I tried out for the team. I dove in the pool, closed my eyes, as I always did in dirty water, and swam into the wall. And can you imagine a coach and the team staring at this idiot who's trying out for the team and he swims into the wall? But the coach never said to me, "Bernie, go get your clothes and go back to your room." He let me get up and paddle up and back with my eyes open. And he left me on the team too. I mean, rarely did I get into a meet unless they couldn't lose. I would usually help sitting on the side. But I was voted the most improved at the end of the season, most improved swimmer by the whole team. And that was such a good laugh. But what a coach, see. He doesn't tell me I'm clumsy, idiotic, stupid. He lets me come back and keep practicing. So remember, rehearse and practice. As William Saroyan said, everybody alive is an actor, but almost everybody alive is a very pathetic actor. That's why you're given a lifetime.
That's very true. And so beautifully said too, because oftentimes we forget those things in life, right? Because we're so busy with the hurriness of life, cleaning the inbox, got to get it done, got to move forward. We don't even take time to breathe and savor what we just accomplished. We're always rushing to next. We're in this society where everything is next.
Worrying about what other people think. Be your authentic self.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Do you find that easier said than done for people?
For most people, yes. Because of, I say, parents, teachers, instead of loving them and giving them permission to be who they are, they're telling them what to do and who to become. And, things that aren't authentic or real. It's not about how much money you accumulate. Because, I don't mean, I'm not picking on Trump, but I'm sure his parents focused him more on making money, and being well known in that way. So where is he today? And how is he feeling about life? He's got his hands full. But I'd say, again, find out how to make it a better world in your way, how you can contribute to the world, and go and do that. And then you'll enjoy yourself and you'll be remembered by your neighbors and other friends. Yeah. I always say, keep the child in you alive. I'm a clown. I mean, and when people say to me, how are you? I say, why are you asking that? Why bring up all my troubles? I say, next time you see me, tell me you're looking very well today. And it's wonderful when I walk into stores and clerks will say, you're looking wonderful today. You're looking very well today. And the whole store is like, what? But they burst out laughing when I explained to them.
Right, exactly.
Everybody to do that. Right.
Did you mention a clown? I usually show this during the show.
Clown, yeah.
Childhood toy. And just showing something like that puts immediate smiles on people's faces.
That's right. Well, what I do, and this is something else everybody can do, call a pizza restaurant and order Chinese food. And when you call the Chinese restaurant, you order pizza.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think happens? I tell them, that I want an egg roll, and they say, oh, is this Dr. Siegel? I say, yes, because I'm the only person who calls up and acts like that. But they get a kick out of it too. And then we're all smiling. And now I even drive up to the bank, because, they're not having people come in the bank. You drive to the drive-up window. So I pull up and I say, my wife called, is my pizza ready? And the tellers, if it's a new one who doesn't know me, I say, look, let's go and talk to the bank, officers. They'll tell you who I am and what is wrong with me.
Gotta keep it entertaining.
Laugh. Yeah, we have a good laugh. Is my pizza ready at the bank?
And what do you do when they don't get the joke? How do you handle those people? Do you try to win them over?
To them then, and that with continued, repetition and meetings, we'll work it out. And then they begin to smile and become my friend.
You said you've been going up to people wearing the mask too and saying like, oh, it's great to see you again. And yeah.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one day, how they get even with me, I went into the pizza place to pick up a pizza. And when I was there, I said, well, is my Chinese food ready? And they had containers of food that they put on the counter and said, of course. And then the whole restaurant laughed like hell, because nobody's ever done that. The containers that you take Chinese food home in, they had a whole bunch of them there. And everybody was laughing because they got even with me finally.
That is funny. That's hilarious. I just was digging for this that we usually show that puts smiles on people's faces as well. And it is, here he comes, George Burns.
Oh, yeah.
You can't go wrong with showing George Burns, huh? He looks like he could be your cousin.
And, Mel Brooks, too. I mean, when when you're in when you're in a Mel Brooks play,
Yeah.
you don't get sick in the wintertime. And when Death of a Salesman, you develop the flu and drop out for a few weeks. Because literally, your chemistry is altered by how you're acting and the role you're playing. You know this from drawing blood from actors. If they're in a tragedy, immune function down, stress hormone levels up. If they're in a comedy, the opposite. So how you act and behave changes your body chemistry.
That's right. Absolutely.
Not blaming people, because a lot of doctors would say to me, "You're blaming your patients." I said, "What are you talking about?" Well, you talk to them about their lives. I said, "Yeah, so they'll understand what's going on. Why they, like why is Monday more illnesses than any other day of the week? So if you love your job, Monday is not a threat to you."
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I love
So,
that quote that you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, and it's something you look forward to then.
and
Well,
you both obviously are doing work that you absolutely love. And I think when we all get a chance to do that, I do this kind of work, which I love because it inspires and reaches people. And sometimes, you don't realize how many people you're reaching until you're in the supermarket and somebody comes up to you and says,
right.
I've been meaning to write you, call you, email you for years. But now that you're here in front of me, I have to tell you that for 20 years or whatever, everything you've done has inspired me. And then they start to tell you their stories. That's quite amazing when that happens,
Yeah,
huh?
it really touches my heart. I always say I get Father's Day cards from the people, suicidal, teenagers and others, before I get them from our regular kids, because it meant so much to them in their life. Though one of our sons, they're all grown. He's an attorney. He just sent me some letters that I sent out to his high school and to his college. That he plays the drums, was in the school band, and I felt the band didn't get the respect, for all the talent and all the things it did. So I wrote to the school, and he saved the letters. We're talking about like 50 years ago. And it was just so wonderful to get those letters, just saying, "I love you." And it touched him and it touched me to see them. So keep writing letters to each other and keep saying, "I love you."
That's right. That's right. Don't forget to say, and say it with meaning, because a lot of people just toss that
Yeah,
they say,
yeah.
love you, see you again, love you.
And the other is not to be afraid. I call it, well, like key words, that when the kids would be driving me crazy, I'd say, "Do you know why your mother and I will never get a divorce?" And they knew the answer was because neither one of us wants the children. And that would quiet them down. And they learned to say to me, "You're not in the operating room now." And I thought, what? They're saying, "You're not in charge. Cool it."
Mm,
My wife would say to me, "You're upsetting the pets." See, neither one of them paid any attention, in a sense, to what I was saying, but they were calming me and controlling my behavior.
yeah.
And my wife was right, because the pets would all be staring at me if I'm yelling. And she'd say, "You're upsetting the pets." And, "Oh, okay, sorry. Not you're bothering me or the children, you're upsetting the pets." But it worked.
Right. Right. How many times do you get asked, Dr. Siegel, what is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life?
I bet a lot of people ask you that.
No. Well, I mean,
They're hoping you have the
out in
answer.
public, they don't come up and say, "What's the meaning of life?" But to me, why we're alive is to participate in creation and to bring love to the world, but in our own manner. They, it isn't, becoming a doctor or a politician. You want to be a gardener, you want to be a plumber, it doesn't matter. You want to be a nurse. How do you want to bring love to the world? What would make you happy doing it? And then to go and do it and to bring that love to the world. So we're all family.
We are. We absolutely are. And that's the thing to remind ourselves and to remember that we're all connected and we all truly do need each other. Well, guys, this was really wonderful. And again, I hope you will come back anytime you want. The door is always open. It's an amazing discussion, even with the whatever that sound is that's in there. Who knows? Again, it all ties in beautifully to that book
Could be
about
my angel.
trying to get in there. And but
His
it's
name
perfect.
is George, by the way.
I was going to say it. Oh, the question that I asked earlier, and I don't know if it came through because of the sound, was when you said, Dr. Siegel, that you were always hearing the voice and talking to the voice and relying on that voice. Is that voice that you hear, do you attribute that voice to being you, or do you attribute that voice to being God?
No, it's coming, if people are upset by using the word God, it's coming from the collective consciousness, where all the wisdom and everything is known. And so I hear it coming from there. But in a sense, I'd say, yes, it's God, because part of God is that consciousness. My definition of God, and that's mentioned, I think, in the book I wrote, is loving, conscious, intelligent energy. And I think the way I said it in the book was, it's a loving, intelligent, conscious energy. And somebody said, oh, then God's name is Alice, because that's the first letter of each of those words, a loving, intelligent, conscious energy. But all those things are necessary if you're going to create life. You need intelligence, consciousness, energy, if you're going to do something. I mean, you cannot explain life. I mean, the reason I say that, just looking at myself, how do you make an eye? How do you make an ear? A heart? Wow. Who thought of that? And I mean, there's such an intelligence behind creation. And we all need to utilize that to our benefit, not to killing each other and making better weapons, but making more love.
It's very interesting you say that, because I often analyze things like that too. And I'll even say, who came up with the word love? That this feeling, that what we get from that experience of love, who was the one that officially sanctioned, or any words that we use? How do we call this life? Water is water. How did all of that develop? I asked those questions.
From Maimonides from 1,000 years ago. First, he said, disease is a loss of health. It is not God punishing you or giving you something. And when you lose something, what the Bible tells us to do is help our neighbor find what they've lost. Because what drives me nuts is some of the so-called religious people who will tell you, oh, God gave you cancer because you haven't come to church and you're breaking the rules and you're doing evil things. No, you've lost your health. Let's help you find it. That's one vital aspect that people need to understand. The other from Maimonides was, if people, remember this is 1,000 years ago and it's still true today. If people took as good care of themselves as they do their animals, they would suffer fewer illnesses. Now, to give you an example, I have 9 cats. One of them died of lung cancer. Doug and I smoke in the yard. And this is a true story. Doug and I smoke in the house, and the others are having trouble breathing. So what's your solution? She said, oh, Doug and I now smoke in the yard. We're not killing our cats anymore. We hope other people aren't killing theirs. That blew my mind. You're killing yourself in the yard to save the lives of your cats. So my message to people, love yourself. Put up photographs of yourself as a baby and as an adult, to walk around your office and house and where you work and say, I love you. I love you. I love you.
Beautifully said. And there's a difference between loving oneself and having the self-love and being self-absorbed in a way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking about egotistical, you love yourself, that you're not perfect. And you do things, you say to people, I'm sorry, but you focus on trying to be loving. And you can say to yourself, if I loved you, how would I act towards you when we met? And give it a shot, and you keep practicing doing it, and it changes the other person. It really is very powerful. I mean, one kid who was screaming obscenities in his car, just horrible. I couldn't get a cop to talk to him. The cop said, it's not my job to tell him to be quiet. So I went over to his car with our kids yelling, he could have a gun, don't do this. And I went up to the window of his car and I said, I want you to know I love you. I'm sorry your parents don't. Now he stopped screaming, made a U-turn, and I'm sure he drove home to talk to his parents, because it was like I hit him in the head with a mallet. He just shut right down and realized what his pain was about and who he's screaming at. And he, I hope, went home and worked out some of his troubles.
I have a friend who has a similar situation where through his life, he's always tried to gain the love and attention of the parents. And they're very public people. So when he was a kid, they weren't always there because their careers demanded them to be away and travel, and there was nannies and all of these things. And now, even later in life, he's still trying to win their acceptance and respect and love without it having to have strings attached, and love and attention without it having to be where he has to ask for it to happen.
Well,
how does one deal with that?
What he needs to do is say to them, I love you. Not ask them for love, but whenever he sees them, to say, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I mean it, that to let it come from his heart, because love is one hell of a weapon. See, that's what I call the love warrior. Their weapon is love. And I have seen enormous changes in families when the angry, bitter, child or some other member of the family listens to me and starts saying, I love you. Because think of it. If you were having an argument with somebody and they looked at you and said, I love you. I mean, where does your yelling go? It's hard as hell to yell at somebody when they say, I love you. That and humor. I mean, my wife, who died a couple of years ago, but I've kept some of her notes in the bathroom, because she would put up things like, you must be putting something in my food to make me want to live with you. See, that was her sense of humor. She did literally stand-up comedy. Or this one was one of her routines. When husband calls and says, you got to have dinner out tonight, you leave the sandwich on the front porch. Okay? So,
say that again. You got cut off. Say that again. That was funny.
When your husband calls and says he'd like to have dinner out tonight, you leave a sandwich on the front porch. Okay? So that's just one of a list of 10 things that are her warning signs about your life.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And, so with that sense of humor, she always would wipe away any anger I had because I'm laughing, and then we're back loving each other again. And I tell you, when you really love someone, it impressed the hell out of me. She and I were like one person. That's the only way I can describe it. If we had each other, we didn't need anything else. We had a complete life with each other.
And which leads me to what's probably an obvious question is, then when one of you is gone, the secret to carrying on with them not physically there?
Well, I don't have her body, but that's a whole other program we have to do with you. She's been communicating with me since she died. Let me hold something up for you. This is her photograph I keep over my heart. But in that little container behind it are 3 dimes and 3 pennies. I have found many more than those, but we were married on the 11th. And the other day, one of the most mystical events of all, I mean, I've been finding a dime and a penny in bizarre places about half a dozen times. But I was making the bed. I put my hands up, grabbed the sheets and blankets to pull them towards me, and they were pulled out of my hands to the other side of the bed. And what was lying there on the sheet, on the mattress? A dime and a penny in the bed. Now, there's nobody who's going to make up a story to explain that one, okay? And that happened on the 11th, too, the day after Mother's Day. On the 9th, I found another dime and a penny in our clothes dryer. And there wasn't anything in there that had coins in it. You know, it wasn't my pants with money in it. And so she is communicating with me all the time. And they're mystical events. But I talk about them because I want people to know these things happen. That's why I say no endings. We don't die. Okay, our bodies do. Don't get me wrong. Even as a 4-year-old, I used to talk about the kid on the bed. And one day I thought, why don't you say me? Because when I was looking down, having left my body, it wasn't me. It was a body, a kid on the bed. Yeah. And if people want to know how come I didn't die, because I had put toys in my mouth and aspirated them, imitating some workmen in our house who had nails in their mouth. But I'm sure it was my angel who did a Heimlich maneuver, because the kid on the bed vomited and all the pieces came flying out. And as a 4-year-old, I didn't think, gee, why did he vomit? What made? But as I grew up, I thought, you know, wow, he had a Heimlich maneuver done and everything came flying out, and I'm alive today. So I'm sure my angel was there. It wasn't my time, though I was mad. See, this is why about death. I just read something that said death is a better experience than birth. And it had to do with my feeling there was a God, because I remember you're 4 years old and you're out of your body, floating around, seeing, thinking, looking. Who wants to go back when you're 4 years old? You know, I realized, oh, my parents would be upset, but what the hell, this is fun. And then the kid vomits and I'm back in the body. See, I still say it that way, the kid vomits. And I thought there must be a God. And the first words out of my mouth when I didn't die were, who did that? Because I was mad that I wasn't dead. Now, that may sound crazy to people, but when you're 4 years old, it was one hell of an experience. And nobody was interested in talking about it either, because in those days, that was not something, you know, that people wrote books about.
That's very true. They didn't discuss those things. Would you say you've always been somebody who has always asked why first?
It probably. I mean, I don't think about it in that way. I just accept what happens. I don't need to know why it happened or how it happened, but I accept it as happening. And then with time, I can learn what the components are of the event.
It's like when I see horrific things happen that people do to each other or say to each other, I always I say, why? I just don't understand. I do understand, but what I'm actually saying is, how could somebody do that or say that? So I'm looking for the why of it.
It's how they're brought up. That's always the answer. Absolutely. If somebody comes in and provides you with love, it changes everything. And that's why I keep getting back to Charlie as an example. He's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So a lot of what we're talking about, Charlie, it's It's true for you too. When did you realize that you always looked for the why in things as well, Charlie?
I think I've always been like that, you know, in like in spiritual ways and in like funny ways. My mom, I was homeschooled, and I did it through this program, Oak Meadow School, where it's an accredited school that sends you the work to do at home, and you get it graded by teachers. And so, as I was coming up through elementary school, I'm not a very math oriented person, and my mom said that as she would try to cover these math lessons with me, I would always be, but why? Why is it done that way? Why do we get to that answer? And she's like, it's math. You do math and you ask why, like in English and history and stuff. And so I had why in everything, including like why things are spelled certain ways and all of that. But as I've gotten older and like found a career and everything, why is important. And, you know, I teach kids martial arts classes and teach to adults, and I feel like the why is important to everybody. Like in the martial arts world, it's kind of a different social construct than like a different kind of classroom. So, you know, when you're having a martial arts teacher tell you to do something, you do it. But when I give the why to people, I feel like that it means a lot more. It makes a difference. It makes them usually interested in it, want to train in it. And I felt that same way as I would have teachers on certain classes that would explain like why we're doing this move a certain way. It changes it. As I now train in a style that it's Japan's internal style, there's a lot of work that you can train on your own and work with these techniques that develop abilities within you that become very subtle when you do it in technique. And it's that why of like you're working on it to make yourself better, and the idea that like you kind of never get it. That's kind of the point. You can always get better. You can always train in it. That's shugyo is the Japanese term for that kind of intensive training. So I feel like the why is important, and it's kind of like always polishing something. You know, when we can turn the question inside and ask ourselves like why we want certain things or behave certain ways. There's a Buddhist discipline that teaches about taking your desire and making it meaningful for the world. Like sometimes you're like kind of polishing away desires that aren't good, but then you find some that like it's a desire that's good for people, that like kind of like my photography, like your shows, it's something that you can touch people with, and that's a good desire to have. So I feel like why is one of the best questions we can have, unless you're asking why you do a math problem like that. That's maybe not the right question to ask.
Mm-hmm. Did you hate those questions? I used to hate the question that would always be like on a test when they would say something like, you know, Mary got in her station wagon with her 4 kids. They drove from Boston to Chicago, and they had 3 pieces of luggage in the trunk. What is their uncle's name? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Like those word questions of like, I don't know, what are you talking about? Where'd the uncle come in? I could tell you how many pieces of luggage and how many kids are in the car, but the uncle's name, you know, weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, I love sharing memes that like make fun of those jokes and of those problems, turn it into a joke. Yeah, those are fun.
So what are some things you're working on right now, Charlie? Even, you know, obviously everything's been sort of shut. We're sort of coming out now slowly, you know, very gingerly for the right reasons, step by step, coming out of being socially distancing, which we still have to do, but everything being closed and working from home and everything. What are some things that you've been doing to get through all of that and that you're continuing to do? I'm sure you've been out in nature taking a lot of pictures, because that you could still do.
Yeah, that's been nice, and it's good. My mom's store got to reopen on May 20th, so it's nice to be back working with people and helping there again. But I'm working on writing a lot. I continue to write short stories and poems that kind of appear to me in a way, and I get this inspiration, and I feel like when a volcano's gonna go kind of thing. It feels like, okay, I've kind of pondered this inspiration long enough, it's ready to come out and write. But I'm working on a novel right now that it involves a character that's going through kind of like different universes in a way, and it's working with like light versus dark and finding your own path in the process. And it's a fantasy story, but it covers deeper spiritual lessons. I'm working on that right now, and I had another novel which I've been kind of like putting pieces on here and there at different times. But the poetry keeps coming, so I'm sure there'll be another poetry book at some point too. But I'm glad I got to share in publishing this book with my grandfather now, to have the time at home to get to do these shows, to work with him more. That's been a blessing that way, where I'm more available to do that kind of stuff at home. And yeah, I come out with new photographs all the time that I put up on Facebook and on that pick fair story you were showing. That's a great way that I've got like thousands of pictures and stuff from Iceland, so I still come out with new stuff all the time. And then like I was talking about before, I love those little things in nature. Like I took a photograph the other day of a tree that's like impossibly growing across the top of a rock. And those kind of things, it can touch us and have a message for us. And then I see it in more traditional martial arts. There's a lot of ways that what we practice in there, we're mirroring lessons that are already in nature. So yeah, it all kind of comes back around that way,
doesn't it? It's all really full circle, isn't it? Everything's full circle, and you're learning a lot about yourself as you're doing these things. Like you say, you're an eternal student. You're always waking up, learning, and being inspired by even some of the simplest things in life, right?
Yeah, definitely. My other grandfather on my mom's side always said, "You want to be learning until the day you die." That's like what we're here for, is to be learning. And you were asking about like the meaning of life, and I feel like it's like many things, it's like a two-sided thing. Like you're learning for your own growth and development as a being, but you're also here to help other people. And having those two things tie together, when you can grow and help others in like a way that kind of supports each other, that's like what life is about to me. And like my grandfather was saying, finding your place in the world and doing that, that's a key thing, where you feel like that's kind of your niche. I think if everybody followed that piece, there's another Rumi quote that I have hung up here in my room that talks about it's like a particular desire and what they want to do with their life is a note on a flute that God's playing. And if you be that note, then everything becomes this beautiful song of everybody being their note together. So I've had people in my life that say, like, you can't make money being an author, and like, go do this, go do that. And you got to ask yourself, like, the question of whose opinion matters to you, is what my mom's taught me, is an important question. And you ask yourself, like, what makes you happy? And like, I was a waiter for a few years on the side of building my photography business and stuff. So like, you got to do things to make it work, but following that passion is an important thing that can help anybody.
Absolutely. I've asked a lot of people, when they're told, well, you shouldn't do that, that's not going to make money, that's not for you, no, that's too risky, whatever it may be. Sometimes people fold when they hear that. They're like, oh, okay, all right, and maybe it is too risky, or maybe I won't make money, or maybe it'd be too hard, or maybe I'm not going to be good at it, or I'll fail. And then there's other people who take that and they use that as the resilience, the stamina, the energy to go forward. So do you find yourself as somebody who does that? If somebody tells you you shouldn't do it, you can't do it, don't even bother doing it, you turn that around into a positive where, oh, that's all the energy I need. I'm going to show them how I can do it.
I've had some days where I've questioned, this was like a couple years ago kind of thing, questioned, should I be going in this career of like pretty much like self-employed kind of thing, working with my creative work that I want to do and things. And when people kind of push the buttons in a way, I think it's healthy to question when you're starting out, to question, like, do I want to do it this way? Who do I want to listen to? Sometimes it's like a painful process, but then like, you're sure about it. You know, if you like the wind pushes on the tree enough, the tree grows stronger roots or it falls over, and you decide how you want to respond that way. So like to choose to grow stronger roots in a sense, to choose that I'm going to follow through with the stuff that I want to do. That's my pick, but like everybody has their free will. That's kind of the beautiful thing, and it feeds back into the quote that's the title of our book, when you realize how perfect everything is, that you have that free will, and it can be pain causing, or it can be like causing an awesome life. And it's sometimes people forget they have that free will. So like to make sure that you're sitting with yourself sometimes, and having that quiet space where you can check in and see if you're happy with what you're doing and the direction things are going in. You can make life more positive that way.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And Dr. Siegel, there was a question that came in from somebody when you were talking about the loss, dealing with loss. Ernestine Webb said it's not easy when you lose a spouse, especially when you were so
I'll mention something about that.
taking her 5 years to feel at ease.
But I've got to tell you something else, because you told another little story first that might make you smile. Because while in college, the final exam in physics, there was an open book and closed book. Now, I have a good memory, so I didn't read a book, but I didn't understand physics at all. So having the book was no help to me. I got a call from the professor. To an F in physics. It's obvious you've cheated. Nobody has ever gotten an A in the closed book and a C in the open book. He said, that does not go together. So you must have cheated. I said, no, I didn't cheat. I just don't understand physics, but I have a wonderful memory. So I don't need your book when you give a simple question. I just put everything together. And he laughed. He said, all right, I'll give you a B. And he left. And I didn't get an F. But anyway, yes, I saw the notes. Let me say this. Yes, I mean, I miss my wife, but I have her photographs everywhere. And she has continued to communicate with me. Pennies from heaven are a Siegel family tradition. Now, that may sound crazy, but when my mother died many years ago, one of the grandchildren one day said to me, because I said, boy, I keep finding all these pennies in the driveway, going to the mailbox. And this little pipsqueak of a kid said, oh, they're pennies from heaven. That blew my mind. And when my wife died, we immediately started finding pennies, and particularly the 11, dime and a penny. And I'm telling you, at the counter in the supermarket, in a bird bath outside the house that was filled with leaves and dirty water. And the voice said to me, clean the bird bath. And there was a dime and a penny in it. And anyway, the spirit is there. Yes, we miss their body. But I also want to tell you something that I have written about. In heaven, every loved one has a candle. The only way it gets put out is by the tears that their family sheds. So if you want them to enjoy their time in heaven, because they're still watching you, then let them know you're enjoying life. Yes, you miss them. So keep talking to them and look for signs from them to know that their consciousness is still around you. One of the mystical things that happened when my wife died, I'm alone lying in bed and she kisses me goodnight. How? I hear the puff like you're blowing out a candle, and I'd feel a breeze on my face. Now there's nobody in the bedroom. And I knew she's saying goodbye. I would hear her voice, not saying words, but sounds. One night, I sat up and said, do you need any help? And then I said to myself, stupid, your wife died. What do who are you talking to? But these things are so real that I know she's around. And that's why I've stayed in the house that we lived in for decades. And as I say, her essence is here. And I'm living the message. And that's why I don't, clean the mirrors in the bathroom where we would write with lipstick love notes to each other. And one that really has touched me, I wrote in the bathroom window, made a big heart, and I wrote, "I love you" with the arrow through it. And then she did one, and it's still on the window. Mm. So when the sun comes out, what gets thrown into our room in the morning when I'm getting up? "I love you." And I say those are no coincidences, that these things happen and last. So I know we'll be together again someday. It's not our first life together. She was in my other life too. That's why our marriage, as a matter of fact, I won't tell you the bloody parts of it with my life as a knight with a sword, but our families were in conflict. And the solution that I realized could have happened when I was reading a story. A man sells his farm. The other guy finds a box when he's digging up the plant, and in the box is an enormous number of treasures, diamonds, money, everything. So he brings it to the other guy and says, "It's yours." And the guy says, "No, you bought the farm. It's yours." "No, it's yours." "No, it's yours." And somebody comes over and says, "Look, you two guys, stop fighting. You have a son, you have a daughter. Tell them to get married and give them this as a gift." And I realized that by my wife and I getting married, our family is united. There's nothing to fight over anymore. We're now one family. And, it may be in a second life, but it's still part of resolving all that went before. And so you can get together again with your loved ones. But most of all, don't let your tears put out their candle. And I wrote a little story called Buddy's Candle by that title, but live it, so they know that you're enjoying life. Because I have to say, when my father died, it was like the beginning of this kind of experience for me. I was going to wear black for the rest of my life to remind me that I'm going to die, and to cheer up. Kind of a sick way of looking at it, that every time you'd see black, you'd remember. And my father appeared in a dream, and he's the one who really told me to, let go of all this craziness and enjoy your life, because it's not helping him to see me, thinking about my death and trying to be cheerful because I'm going to die. No, I just enjoy the day. And I have no idea when I'm going to die. I may set a record, because I don't feel any different. I always wonder who the guy is in the bathroom when I get up in the morning, because he's much older than I am.
That's so true. And, well, oftentimes, when we have these experiences, we say that we can't, like when somebody passes away in your life that you truly care about, there's times when you say, well, we shouldn't laugh at that joke, and we can't be happy. And, you feel guilty, you feel selfish laughing and going to parties and a barbecue, because that person that passed away is no longer there to celebrate the same thing. So you're feeling sorry for yourself, but you're also feeling sorry for the fact that their life, it was, maybe if it's a sudden death, it was cut short. So you don't necessarily always want to, especially within range of time right after the passing, to allow yourself to be so jovial, even though that's what they would want for you, to be jovial, but you feel guilty being jovial because you're dishonoring them or something. How dare you be happy and laugh because they've passed away and they can't do that.
And I'd think the opposite, that they love it to see you laughing. I mean, on our headstone, I think this is a good message for the people. There are two things. One, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it with you, and you're the best thing that ever happened to me. At the bottom, from William Saroyan, in the time of your life, live so that in that time you do not contribute to the misery and sorrow of the world, but rejoice in the mystery, but a delight in the mystery and joy of the world. And that's chiseled in. And we visit the headstone. I mean, I know she isn't there, but it's a way of sharing also and talking to her there. So the dog and I go to the cemetery and we walk around and we visit and we talk to her. And, she's there. Last winter when my gloves fell apart, I told my wife I needed a new pair of gloves. And when I went shopping, came back, right at the driver's door, there was a pair of gloves on the ground. Mm. And they're not, and the other car was the same as when I left. I mean, it wasn't somebody else dropped them. So I'm saying this publicly and I hope it happens because I'll start a charity if it does. We have 7 people in our family, but twins. So we have 6 birthdays. So I'm telling my wife, I play the lottery with those numbers and for her to please arrange to have them come up sometime. Okay? Because if it does happen, people may say, well, that's just chance. Well, you know what the chances are of winning the lottery. And so if she can manage that, I think it'll be a real sign of people not dying, if you know what I mean, but living on. So I keep working with her to win the lottery. And then, as I say, we'll start a charity to help animals, people, nature. I don't need the money. I want to use it to make it a better world.
Is there a message you have for people right now who feel scared and stuck as a result of everything we've been going through in our lives globally, the monumental nature of economy, pandemic,
I'd say,
civil unrest?
The old line, when you live in your heart, magic happens. I'd say, live in your heart, help other people, and then you'll go home feeling better. Instead of worrying about yourself and how terrible and what's happening. And my father's father died when he was 12 years old, leaving 6 kids and a wife. He died of tuberculosis with no insurance. So they went through hell. So that was my father's message. He said money is to help other people, to help people live and survive. So he was always helping everybody. And I'd say the same to everybody out there. Help other people. It can be the people with the same problem. See, if you had a leg amputated, if you're living on the street, whatever it is, help the people who are sharing the experience and you'll feel better. As strange as that may sound, when you help someone else, you feel better. So I'm trying to do that all the time, even in little ways. And as I say, with that sense of humor too, as Charlie said, walking up to people with masks and saying, oh, you look very familiar, and then they give you a look. But everybody is wounded. Don't forget it. Yeah, you want help and compassion? Put a bandage on your body that will be visible to people. Because this is a quote from Stop and Shop. You're the only person in Stop and Shop who hasn't asked me what happened. I got poked in the back. I turned around, she got a bandage over her eye. I said, oh, because I know what happened. Really? Yeah, I have an abusive spouse also. See, that's my sense of humor.
Right.
You stopped talking to me after that one. But that impressed the hell out of me. Every single person in the store is talking to her. What happened? What's going on? So they can have therapy for a few minutes in the aisle. Yeah. So don't hide your wounds.
As Ernestine says, and she's been very blessed by what you and Charlie are talking about, that's so true. We do really need to help one another. And Kay-Ann says the same thing. So true. And thank you so much, Dr. Siegel. And Ernestine also said that she has found so many feathers since her husband passed, and she's saved all of them.
Right. That can be a sign that means something to her, So in each family, you may find things that have meaning for you. That's why I say the pennies, because of what a grandchild said, became our symbol in the family. And numbers. I got to tell you one more thing. My wife was born on 9/9. 9 months after she died, my heart rhythm went crazy. Okay, the person I loved died and my heart felt it. I go to the emergency room. I walk in. Put him in room 9. We don't have a room for you upstairs yet. Next morning, okay, we got a room. 819. And 8 is a new beginning. So it's, 99 if you add them. And then when I looked at the wristband they give you, plastic with numbers, my patient number is 8996633. And the case number also always adds up to nines. It could be a 7, a 2, a 4, and a 5. But if you put the numbers all together, and I know my wife is watching over me and taking care of me all the time. So I've saved all those, wristbands, because every time you go to the doctor, they put another one on you. Oh, one time though, I said to the nurse, they'll all add up to nines. And she said, it doesn't, the case number. I was thinking, oh my, it's all coincidence. Then I looked at it, it added up to our anniversary, 7/11. So I have, that's the only one that wasn't all nines. And I have to tell you, that's even true of our telephone number. I have a 711 in it. I mean, I don't want people to call me, but we have twins and 3 others. Our area code has a 2 and a 3 in it. The numbers that are the next part of the phone have an 8, a 3, and a 7. So it's 711. And then the last parts are 2 6s and 2 3s. It never occurred to me, until after she died. But everything has this magic about it, all the numbers and everything. And it can't all be a coincidence.
Right.
Yeah. That's why Elizabeth Kubler-Ross had a Swiss accent. She always would say, Bernie, there are no coincidences. And I believe that now.
Well, that's the thing. Life isn't a coincidence. Exactly. And again, the book, it's really wonderful because so many of us try to, attain perfectionism. I've even changed my way of thinking and saying that as well. I'm not trying to make things perfect. I'm striving for excellence, but I've changed it. And I've told a few people who struggle with perfectionism, I say, well, maybe if you change it from saying I'm striving, I have to make that perfect, this has to be perfect, it might be less claustrophobic and a lot easier to just say, well, you're not striving for perfect, because what is perfect? Maybe you're striving for excellence. And they're like, oh, wow, that just took a weight off my shoulders. Boy, I'm striving for excellence, but not perfection. And the book ties into that so beautifully, because so many people, we've all done it, we try to strive for what we are told is perfect, and there is no perfect, right?
Right. Yeah, it's those imperfections.
And the other line I was thinking of for everybody who's watching, life is uncertain. Eat dessert first.
You can make that a metaphor for like doing what you love first too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Did you ever get caught in that trap of striving for perfection? I mean, as a doctor as well?
Love. I mean this. I have been stopped by the police. I have so many bumper stickers, a lot of them from your store, Charlie, about loving and everything. And the police read the back of the car. And then they come over to me in the driver's seat and they say, never mind, go ahead. I mean, they have a heart, those cops. And then another one, my wife was in the car with me. We were driving back hills upstate New York. And it was this windy road, and she had fallen asleep. So if I'm driving that way, she's falling all over. So I just went straight down this windy road. I just crossed the white line because nobody was there. It was at night. And then a cop pulls me over. He said, what, are you drunk? You're crazy? You're crossing the line? I said, no, I'm trying to keep my wife from not bumping the window and falling over. Let me see your driver's license. So I handed it to him. You Dr. Siegel? Yes. Oh, my mother loves you. And that was the end of the ticket. We had a therapy session that night in the street.
Do you know that happened to me once? I was going with a friend in the car, and we were headed up to Quincy, Massachusetts. He was going to be in a table tennis tournament. So we're going along, and I was going to go root him on. and I'm in the passenger seat, and he's in the driver's seat, and we're going along on Interstate 95, and all of a sudden, this police car comes swiftly behind us, and I tell him, because my friend had never been stopped before for anything, so I said, just be calm, just whatever they ask you, just respond cordially, and good to see you, officer, or whatever, have a good day. And so at first he was panicking, like, oh, I've never had this happen before. And I said, just relax, just be calm and respond to whatever they need. So they pull the car over. We're on the shoulder of Interstate 95. And instead of going around to the driver's side where he was, they came around. The gentleman came around to the passenger side where I was sitting. And he looks the car over. And I roll my window down, and he's looking in the passenger side, and I'm looking at him. And he said, do you know why we're stopping you? And I answered, because I was closer to the officer, I said, no, we actually don't. He said, where are you headed? I said, we're on our way. He's going to be in a table tennis tournament up in Massachusetts. We're headed there. He said, okay. So he goes and he looks at the front of the car, and then he goes and he looks at the back of the car. I guess he's looking for damage. He said, well, somebody just hit a van with a woman and children in it, and the van, has crashed into the Jersey barrier, and it was a hit run. And this make and model car matches what just happened. So he looked and he saw there's no damage on the car, so obviously it wasn't this car. But then he looks at me and he goes, are you on PBS? I said, well, he goes, oh, I watch you all the time. I love that special. I love that. I like that. He taps the top of the hood and he goes, you guys are good to go. It's like, I guess you always have to have that back pocket thing, right? It's like, it's, you have any stories like that, Charlie?
Oh, nothing much. I've heard some though, like when we're on the way to martial arts events and stuff, I've heard of friends of mine that get pulled over for whatever, and then they've got like a car full of weapons, and it's like, well, these are for like demonstration. They're not actually weapons. You can't carry that stuff. It's just for demonstration.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because I have so many love you messages and stickers on the car. Endless. And some people yell at me sometimes and say, wait a minute, don't go. When the light turns green, I didn't finish reading all your stickers.
You're right. Exactly. I'll have to say the story one day where I used to set things up where I would say, as it was approaching a traffic light, well, if the light doesn't turn green, it's going to be a bad day. You ever heard that one before?
Well, yeah. I mean, I work with God. And I expect the lights to be green and to go through when I need to or stop when I need to. Yeah. And you make your own weather. That's something else I learned through you. Right. So what's going on in the world that makes the weather?
So before we get ready to wrap, and I appreciate all the time, we went a little extended because of the sound issues earlier. So I wanted people to really get a full understanding of the conversation and of the.
You'll pay us a bonus, I presume.
That would be great. Lunch at Katz's. And I mean it. I'm a man of my word. Lunch at Katz's.
All right, when it opens up, I'd love to.
When you look at. You got it. That's a date. What brings you the greatest joy when you look at the extensiveness and the impact of the work all these years and the lives you've touched and continue to touch in ways that are profound and go beyond, because you touch one life, you're touching many others. When you look at that, Doctor,
is that I've touched people all over the world. My books are in every language. I mean, I have copies of them here. They get sent when it gets published in China or Japan or somewhere. And just the fact that I've touched people all over the world, that I don't have to go everywhere, but I can send the message. And everybody appreciates it and is helped by it. And, I've changed the way of thinking in the world. I wish I could do more to change the way doctors are trained and educated. That we all need to become human and to think of our work as here to help other people in our own unique way. And since I've helped so many people, I really feel I'm immortal. I can't ever die because of what I've left, my words, my work, and it'll be there for people.
And that's what it is. It absolutely is. And Tiffany Lawrence says how amazing. That's the goal, to touch lives and make a difference. She's a musician in Chicago, a violinist, and she does that with her work. And music also is another way to present healing and touch deeply as well. Music.
That's why I can keep talking forever. My mother-in-law was an opera singer. Once I started singing in her house because there was a piano in the living room, she told me I'm not allowed to sing in the house or the car because I sang so poorly, and that she'd been an opera singer and I was driving her crazy because she also shut all the windows in the house as soon as I started singing. And that's when I asked her, why do you do that? Because you're driving our neighbors crazy too. But I'll tell you what I learned from her and Pavarotti and others, that being on the stage, they said, it's like death. It's like hell. Because if you hit the wrong note, it's a disaster. But I felt very sad for my mother-in-law because her whole life, everything had to be the right note. You know what I mean? If you sat down at the dinner table and the fork was on the wrong side, oh my God, what are people going to think of you? And because of my crazy personality, I helped her become a normal human being. You know what I mean? To laugh and to relax. And literally, when you talk about immortality, the day she died, she came and said goodbye to me. I was at religious services. A cloud came over my head and said, goodbye, Bernie. And I knew it was her. So I jumped up and went down to the nursing home. And I walked in, and the first nurse to see me said, oh, you've heard. I said, no, I didn't hear. I was told. And she had died 15 minutes before. So believe me, there's communication. But she and I, we became a team. I don't know if you have time for one more story. When I operated on her, this is one to make everybody smile. She developed a hernia from helping her husband, who had a spinal injury and couldn't move. And so we're always shifting him around. And she developed a hernia. So I took her to the hospital as an outpatient, did it under local to make it, because she was in her 80s, to make it as easy as I could for her, with sedation. I mean, the anesthesiologist is there. But at the end, I thought, now, how can I embarrass her so much that she will have no pain and no trouble healing? And it suddenly came to me at the end. Now, remember, this is a lady over 80. No sex for 6 weeks after surgery. And I said it so loud, the whole damn operating room heard me. And then I went and put my street clothes on and back to the recovery room to check on her. And I can't find her. And I said to the nurse, where's my mother-in-law? Oh, she came out, refused pain medication, asked for her clothes, and went home. So I thought, you did it.
Have you heard that story before, Charlie?
Yeah, that's a great one.
And I'd play music, and you'd hear Amazing Grace. People would say, is everything all right? Listen to the music. And what was the other one? Yeah, Frank Sinatra singing All of Me. Why not take all of me? And it got the patients to laugh, and everybody, felt better and hurt less.
That's the I asked your grandfather about, the blessings and joys that he's experienced through the body of work. Your you've got a wonderful body of work as well, Charlie, and you're still growing your body of work. What are the things that are bringing you such great joy and blessing from the work that you're doing as well?
It means a lot to me when it makes an impact on someone and can help them in their lives. Our book right now, I feel like, is a lot about sharing positive, different perspectives that people can take in their lives to change their way of thinking to a more positive one, have a different outlook on things that, like, those difficulties can be there already, but it's how we respond to them that makes the difference. But my first book, actually, it's called Conversations with an Angel, a story of healing through the passageways of grief. It's a short fictional novel that takes people through a journey of a man who's lost his brother and who's walking through Central Park, working through the emotions and the grief that he's dealing with. And partway through his walk, he's met by an angel that teaches him what it's like on the other side for his brother and how he's bringing those messages and connecting. Like, I write short stories, and some of my pieces in the book are like super short stories, like conversations between characters in our new book. So in my first book, I had written a short story I called The Story of the Lights. That was an interaction between two lights, two souls, and the way that they were born as brothers, and then how it happened on the other side. So I ended up then expanding on that, writing like a shell story where the man is met by the angel that teaches him all the lessons in that other short story. So I wanted to get that out for people as my first book, that I want my work to be there to help people, and especially the working with people that are going through grief, I feel like, is one of the most serious and challenging and hard things that we go through in our lives, and to be able to, hand them a loving hand, help, to give them a spiritual outlook on it that can help them. I've had a hard time with grief in my own life at different times, and then I met people coming in the store that need help with that too. So hearing that, it's like I want to do something to reach out and help in my own way. So when people come back in the store, or they write to me on Facebook and stuff, and talk about like how they gave that book to someone, or how it touched their lives, that makes a real difference for me. That's the goal of my work, is to have that work be out there to help them. So that's meaningful to hear.
It's beautiful, and I'm reminding everybody that Charlie's 26, so he has a lot to continue to share with the world and with all of us. And the head start he has gotten from his grandfathers and his parents and just everybody. You're surrounded with lots of love and true blessing, and I think that's really what has made the difference. And it's you've absorbed things from your elders. At an early, I did too. I always thought that the people that were my age and younger didn't necessarily know what they were talking about. I always thought that people that had gone through life, I wanted to hear their stories and their wisdom and how they survived certain things, and have absorbed that as an old soul as well. And you've certainly done that, Charlie, and continue to.
Thanks.
Charlie is love with skin on.
Oh, thanks. That's nice. And it's great to share in this book with you that, like I said, I've been at a lot of his lectures growing up, and like we brought his books and stuff, always had his bookshelf in the store. I used to do support groups there too. So seeing his impact on a worldwide audience, and in a healing way, that the lives that his work has touched, that's an inspiration for me, that I want to get my work out there in a similar kind of way to change lives for the better.
Absolutely. I want to mention the websites for everybody here, which we've been showing so people can check things out: wisdomoftheages.biz and BernieSiegelMD.com. And of course, the nature photo by sc.picfair.com, and of course, Facebook and everywhere else. Gentlemen, it really was an honor and a pleasure to have both of you here in a really deep and impactful conversation. Just seeing some of the comments that we've been getting from people all around the world who I think needed to hear this kind of conversation at this time in their lives, at this time in all of our lives. And I wish you personally nothing but continued blessing and joys in your lives. You are both welcome anytime join me here on the show. And I encourage people to get not just this current book, but all of your works, because there's such a deep, loving meaning, soulful meaning behind everything you do. And it's a blessing to have you both here on the show, and I appreciate your being with me.
Thank you. It's been great talking with you.
Good to be with you.
You too. Thank you.
Now go get a drink.
That's a whole other story.
That's a whole lot. That'll be part
I
two,
dealt with
folks.
stress with drugs and alcohol. And then I went to the men's room after the lecture, and a guy broke in who I thought was going to mug me because he was wild and crazy. It turned out he was an alcoholic, and he's screaming at me, "I'm taking you to an AA meeting," because I said it as a joke.
Right.
See, that's something else. I mean, I thank him for teaching me. It ain't funny. You know, if you don't know what other people are going through,
That's right.
don't make a joke out of it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And there's always something that somebody else is going through. Like if somebody is angry that day, or they seem, just a little off or frustrated, something else, they might have just got a phone call that somebody died, or something might have happened before. So if you come at it, I think with the perspective, I'm thinking maybe there's something else going on in that person's life they're struggling with.
Yeah.
You'll be more open to me.
They hear you say what's in them. So the same lecture is seen differently by different people. And my angel does the talk. I mean, I do the talking, but he is programming me. That's why I can go on forever, because it keeps getting put into me. I always say, just the way you watch a television program, the TV set didn't make the program, it's portraying it. I'm the TV set for my angel. So,
You have an angel you talk to as well, Charlie?
Yeah, I feel like we all do, and that's part of the message in my first book I was talking about. We've all got like a support and spirit that we can reach out to, and that's a part of what makes us all beautiful in a way, having that guidance.
Beautiful perspective.
all right.
Understanding.
Can we say good night?
You say good night. I say good night. Gentlemen,
Thank you.
we will meet at Katz's.
All right.
When they
Sounds
open.
good. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for all of your support and love and blessing. And thanks for blessing us with your time and attention tonight, gentlemen.
Feels good to help.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't it?
nice.
I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having us.
Charlie.
Take care. All
Have a
right.
good night.
Good night, guys. And Dr. Siegel, a blessing to know you. And going back to when I interviewed you on public television, you're a tremendous spirit. You truly are.
You do a nice show. If you ever want us back, let us know.
What are you doing tomorrow night? No, we went longer than we expected, but it's a beautiful message that you both have. And and your grandson is absolutely amazing. You must be very proud.
Amazing. Yes, because at his age, the wisdom in him, the emotion, the feeling, the spirituality, as I said, he was helping me write a book.
Right.
And I just couldn't get over what came out of him as we shared our poetry that really we had just written and put aside, about our lives. And many of them with the same titles, and writing the same things. All right. Thank you.
You take care. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Siegel. Absolutely amazing. Dr. Bernie Siegel and Charlie Siegel. Are they not inspirational and empowering? We've had so much feedback and so many messages, and we did an extended broadcast. Usually we're a lot shorter than this, but I think their message was so important, especially during these times when a lot of people feel stuck, they feel frustrated, fearful. And Dr. Siegel and his infinite wisdom, as well as Charlie Siegel, are a wonderful team together, aren't they? And I want to show you the book. Again, before that, let me show you the websites too, to make sure that you check out. And Charlie's work too in photography is breathtaking. And what I love is when you express yourself through art and music as well. I tend to do the same things through my work, as an artist. And I think it's so beautiful because you are touching lives in ways that, everybody can look at the same picture, but they see different things in that picture. But when you are the person that's able to facilitate such beauty and joy, it's unbelievably impactful and breathtaking. Websites there, wisdomoftheages.biz. That's the beautiful shop in Northern Connecticut of Jane Siegel, Charlie's mom. They are there. Bernie Siegel, MD.com is his website, Dr. Siegel's website. Nature Photos by sc.picfair.com. Wonderful photos there. And of course, fan pages at Facebook and everything else. We really, really, truly thank them for the amount of time they gave us. And again, I think this particular broadcast will go down in history. I'm moved every time I talk to Dr. Siegel, and I know many of you are. You might have been introduced to Dr. Siegel for the very first time, and now you're going to run to Amazon and to Barnes & Noble and to all these places to get the materials. I wholeheartedly recommend that. The last time I saw Dr. Siegel actually was when Deepak Chopra had a wonderful talk at the Palace Theater, which was in Waterbury, Connecticut. That was just before the pandemic. And Dr. Siegel was right there in like the second or third row. And he was just, all in on the conversation that Deepak was happening, as was the entire audience. Tremendous inspiration and wisdom. And I hope that this broadcast, whether you are watching it live or you watch it in the archives on YouTube, provides a sense of solace and peace in your life. Because as you know, light, love, levity is what it's all about. And we have a lot of people that are still watching. And thanks for sticking with us this extended amount of time from all around the world. And I hope you watch the broadcast again. I know in the early part, there was a little funkiness with the audio, and that happens, with transmission over internet. It's not a perfect science. Again, the theme for tonight's show, nothing is perfect, right? So that's why we went a little extended, so they can really get their message across. And so many of you have written some beautiful things that I know Charlie and Bernie were seeing. They were looking at all those beautiful messages that you've been writing. So I appreciate that. Ernestine as well. Thanks again, Jim, for this interview. Good night, everyone. God bless all. And Kay-Ann, thanks for a wonderful evening. God bless. Kathleen, a great interview and stories. Have a great night, everyone. Kay-Ann also saying awesome as well. Ernestine, Jim, thank you for having Dr. Siegel and Charlie on tonight. I have truly enjoyed the interview. Charlie, I love nature and being outside too. I enjoy taking photos of birds, and that is a beautiful thing. Tiffany Lauren has said, what a legacy as well. How amazing. That's the goal, to touch lives and make a difference. And it really, really is, folks. It's the bottom line. You don't need a pandemic and economic situations and civil unrest or whatever it may be to have to love one another. It should be something we do, care for one another on a day-to-day basis without the world having to be turned upside down for us to do that. Kathleen says, wonderful. And have the humor. As Dr. Siegel was saying, humor is so appropriate and so important in our day-to-day lives and so needed. Releasing those feel-good endorphins, so true as well. And more thank yous coming in here. Again, Ernestine as well, and Kay-Ann, and it goes on and on. We have pages and pages. How insightful. Absolutely. And we touched upon a lot of different topics that we didn't even, and that's sometimes when things are really beautiful, when you touch upon topics that you didn't even think you were going to talk about. And we did that tonight with Charlie and with Dr. Siegel. I want to show you the covers of the books. First of all, if you have not acquired this book is was a labor of love for Dr. Siegel. Talked about often. It's a tremendous reference. If you have never read that book, you should get that book. Love, Medicine, and Miracles, Lessons Learned About Self-Healing from a Surgeon's Experience with Exceptional Patients by Dr. Bernie Siegel. That is a must in anybody's library. And I'm not just saying that because I have known Dr. Siegel for a number of years. It's just a must and a very important thing to have, to read again, too. These are the kinds of books you want to have at your fingertips, because every time you read a book or you watch a movie or you look at a picture, every time you do it, you see something different and you absorb new things that you missed the first time. Even when you listen to a piece of music, it's the same thing. You hear different instruments and notes and inflections that you maybe didn't hear the first time you listened to that piece of music. There's another one. And yes, here I am, but we're showing you the books. Love, Animals, and Miracles. Again, he's written 19, almost 20 books. Here's another book, Dr. Siegel. This is a very recent book, so if you have not picked this one up, and I love the topic too, No Endings, Only Beginnings, a doctor's notes on living, loving, and learning who you are. I mean, there I am. That's really the ultimate, isn't it? A doctor's notes on living, loving, and learning who you are. And then, of course, this book we've been referencing throughout the evening, which is the book that Charlie and Dr. Bernie Siegel penned together. They have their own individualized touches and segments within the text. And then, of course, they have the collaboration of their work together. When you realize how perfect everything is, not how perfect everything should be, not how perfect everybody told you that it should be, but really realizing that the perfect is now. A wonderful conversation about life between grandfather and grandson. And again, such a pleasure and an honor. You can see the love between the two, huh? To have Charlie and Bernie with us here on the show exclusively for this extended interview. This was really a true blessing, and we really thank you for all the time. And again, a couple more comments coming in here. Karen Levitt, who's a life coach who lives in New Hampshire, touched by the interview. Fabulous extended show. Dr. Siegel and Charlie shared, so generous because they truly care. You're right. They definitely wouldn't have been with us that long if they didn't care and want to really share with us. So I think that's beautifully said, Karen. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. As we've said, always have some light and levity in your life. And Dr. Siegel mentioned having the love of dogs. And I grew up having dogs. We had cats, fish, turtles. There's your friend Silver that I got on a TV shoot from Switzerland. So he sends his love. And of course, George Burns is here and everybody. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, we always end with our toast. And this perfectly, we started the show with this and we wrap with this. Relax, breathe, love one another. As Dr. Siegel and Charlie said, just think about the things in your life that matter. Laugh, breathe, go out and enjoy nature. I drove alone through Death Valley, and I have not really publicly shared that story very much, but it's my pleasure to do that because a lot of people have been telling me they've been touched by my Death Valley story and that I should write a book about it. Maybe you have a Death Valley story too, life-changing story like that. If you think about it, we all probably do. So relax, breathe, be kind to one another, live an empathetic life, a purposeful life. Do what you can for others. We can't always. Sometimes, there's times when you need the help as well. Don't be shy about asking for help. If you were the kid that didn't raise their hand in class because you were too afraid to ask in front of the other kids the question of the teacher, raise your hand now. There's always people out there who can help, like Charlie, like Dr. Siegel, hopefully like me through the Jim Masters Show live talk show series that we're doing here that we just started 6 weeks ago. And as I always say on this show, I might be the star of the show and the host, but I really, truly believe you guys are the stars. Every single one of you, you are the stars. Because without you, there wouldn't be any of this. So for all of us here, the cast of characters, for Charlie Siegel, Dr. Bernie Siegel, our very special guests, I thank you very much for joining us here on this really memorable episode. Again, show you one more time the points of contact for them. And make sure you get copies of the books and one of their speaking engagements and all kinds of other things. Make sure you check that out as well. And if you would like to see past episodes or this episode again, you can go to the YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. And all the shows are there with all the great guests and fun segments and light and levity and love. And again, we thank you as well for sharing the links to the shows as well. I will be back tomorrow night. Yes, Saturday night. We liven things up. We have a disco ball behind us, and we have a lot of viewer interaction. We have a lot of fun on the weekends as well. And again, a great weekend of shows coming up and a great week of guests next week as well. So no endings, just beginnings. And I've never loved endings, as you can tell. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. It was truly a blessing and an honor to have both of the Siegels with us. And thank you very much from all around the world for joining us on this very memorable broadcast as well. So we're going to say goodnight and wish you light, love, and levity for the rest of your evening and into tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow night right here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Have a good night, everybody, from wherever you are around the world. It's a blessing and a joy to have you in my life every night as well. I bid you farewell or see you later. Have a good night. Bye-bye.